The Forgotten Skill: The Art of Consciously Creating Desired Experiences. About the author. Copyright 2012 Tomislav Tomic. http://tomic.com. When I was 5 years old, my mother always told me that happiness was the key to life. When I went to school, they asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up. I wrote down happy. They told me I didn't understand the assignment, and I told them they didn't understand life. John Lennon. Introduction. Let me tell you a story. I know you've probably heard this story many times already, but it wouldn't be such a bad idea to remind ourselves and think about it once more. It's about how they train elephants in zoos. When an elephant is still a baby, it is chained to a metal ball or something similarly heavy, in order to stop it from moving around. The elephant has full freedom of movement within the allowed radius, but if it wishes to move any further, the chains stop it. In the beginning, it keeps trying to push through their imposed limitation, but as time passes, it starts to give up. Later on, when the elephant grows up, it doesn't even try to move outside the imposed radius. Although there are no more chains stopping it, and even if there were, the animal would be too strong to be stopped by them, the same chains remain in its memory and continue to limit its movement. Although the above example refers to the training of elephants, something similar happens to the fates of many humans. They allow long imposed limitations to forever block the most precious thing they possess, a life in harmony with their true desires. This book will teach you to break all the chains which are stopping you from living the life you deserve. It will remind you of the forgotten art of creating the reality of your own choice. Its style is not inspirational, and the wording is not flowery so that it can be read comfortably and peacefully. At times, it is very direct and disturbing, since becoming aware of one's own limiting perspectives on life can have that kind of effect on us. However, if you really, truly want to live life the way you feel you want to live it deep down inside, then I suggest that you ignore the fears and false views created by your 9. limiting perceptions, and strongly decide to become a conscious creator of your own reality, even if you have no idea how to do so right now. 10. Part 1 T the heavy vibrational U universe Niverse. 11. Chapter 1. Just 3% of people. Did you know that experts in personal and spiritual development affirm that only 3% of people live a life which they enjoy and find joyous and fulfilling? Just 3%? Although this fact seems difficult to believe at first, take a good look around you and reach your own conclusions. Look at the headlines in the daily papers and try to find some articles that motivate and encourage you to create positive changes in your life. Look at people who are employed, or who have their own businesses, talk to them, and try to find out how much they truly love their job. Keep in mind that, sleep aside, people normally spend more than half their lives at work. Find out how many people can hardly wait to get up in the morning so that they can start the day early, and experience as much joy as possible during the day. Look at the couples who have been together for a longer while, how many of them still have a fresh, joyous relationship. Look at how many older people still speak of their lives with zest and enthusiasm. How many of us are actually brave enough to swim against the current that is constantly being imposed on us by society? Look around and investigate, and then think deeply about all of this, and you will realize that your estimate isn't too far from the number I mentioned. You're probably asking yourself why this is so, right? Did the Creator truly desire such a world? Is there really some invisible rule which states that only a small number of people are allowed to live a happy and fulfilled life? 12. Is there a book of destiny, whose author, or creator, decided about the possibilities and outcomes in your life? Or is there something that most people have simply forgotten? Is there really a skill known only to the very few, using which we can consciously create the exact reality we would like to experience deep inside? My answer to that last question is yes. By that I am not referring to the skill of creating reality we would be content with. For example, if life brings you a lemon, you make lemonade with it. I am referring mainly to a complete life experience with no compromises, a life in harmony with your deepest desires. Each and every one of us has an inbuilt mechanism for reality creation. We do this every day, we continually create our reality. However, most people do this completely unconsciously and don't feel that they can control what happens in their outer reality. Consequently, they think that external circumstances decisively determine the quality of their lives. But by gaining greater and greater mastery of the forgotten skill of creating our own reality, our life becomes a game whose rules we create ourselves, exactly the way our heart desires. As you read this book, always keep in mind that conscious reality creation, that is, the conscious creation of the experiences we desire, is not simply one of the possible choices we have at our disposal, but rather, it is the main reason of our existence on this planet. Otherwise, our lives would be quite meaningless, wouldn't they? Before we go on, maybe you've read some of my books or articles, or you might have taken part in one of my lectures or seminars. Maybe I've created a good impression, so you already have a certain amount of trust in what I'm talking about. If that is so, I'm glad. But what I ask of you, and of readers who have come across my work for the very first time, is that you be very skeptical of the information which you receive through this book, even if you feel that the text resonates well with you. Please, do not believe me in advance. Try out the ideas in the book and test their performance. Let your own experience convince you of their effectiveness. 13. Within the pages of this book, I offer you a well-rounded system of conscious reality creation. You might accept it in its entirety, or you might accept only certain aspects. My advice is to experiment only with those parts of the book which you feel resonate with you. One more thing. This book deals with the conscious creation of reality. Conscious reality creation always has to do with your own desires. Before you start with the practical application of these methods, think carefully about your wishes. Think about whether they are your true desires, or the desires of others. Is your wish a desire that vibrates within you, longing to see the light of day, or do you want it just so you can prove yourself to someone else? Give yourself some time to think about all this very carefully. When you begin to apply the methods given in this book, my advice is to commit only to those desires which come from your heart, as only such desires are worthy of your time and energy. 14. Chapter 2. The Structure of Reality. I dreamed that I was a butterfly. Now, when I am awake, I ask myself, am I a man who dreamed that he was a butterfly, or a butterfly dreaming that I am a man? Chuang Tzu. Are you aware of the fact that the text you are reading right now is nothing more than a wave of energy which, currently, represents a book containing information? Do you know that everything you see around you is nothing more than an energy wave which has taken the shape you see it in, simply because your brain is programmed to make you see and experience it that way? Do you know that your body is nothing more than an energy wave, vibrating simultaneously at different vibrational frequencies, making you feel the sensations and experiences you feel? Please don't think that these are my own personal theories or discoveries. We were told all this several thousand years ago, and quantum physics has confirmed it with its most recent research. In short, your reality is, in essence, just a wave of energy which takes the shape which you, your mind, give it, whether consciously or unconsciously. An energy being living in a universe of energy. What we observe as material bodies and forces are nothing but shapes and variations in the structure of space. Erwin Schrödinger. The universe we live in is, in its essence, nothing more than an energy wave which shapes itself according to the vibration that affects it. Even the most sturdy substances in nature are just energy, vibrating at a different vibrational frequency with respect to other substances in nature, thus giving us the illusion of solidity. 15. However, solidity does not in fact exist as such. There is only our own perception, and, as a result, the experience of something being solid. The true nature of matter is not solid but extremely fluid. If you dream of someone hitting you, you feel the same intensity of pain you would feel if someone hit you in real life. Still, you are aware that it is just a dream, and not reality, which you are experiencing. But how, then, do you explain the fact that, while experiencing a dream, which is not real, you still feel the solidity of objects, hear sounds, feel tastes and smells, and so on? How do you explain the fact that although you are aware of the dream taking place in your imagination, the reality you feel while dreaming is no less real than the one you feel when awake? Quantum physics has discovered that everything that can be seen on the physical plane, as well as things that cannot be seen with the naked eye, is, at a basic level, made up of units of energy known as subatomic particles. Such particles are often called electrons, protons, neutrons, etc. However, these subatomic particles are not particles in the literal sense, but energy waves, that is, the field of possibilities, which exists as particles only when it is observed. The observer's consciousness is the main factor influencing the behavior of subatomic particles, the so-called observer effect. According to the theories of quantum physics, it is thought that certain events in the subatomic world exist in all possible states until our observation or measurement fixes them in a single state, the collapse of the wave function, as it is commonly called in quantum physics. Once observation or measurement has ceased, the subatomic particles return to their initial state. Observations not only disturb what is to be measured, they produce it. Pascual-Jordan. Numerous investigations in quantum physics have beyond doubt demonstrated that the very act of observing subatomic particles, such as neutrons, affects and changes them according to the observer's expectations. Therefore an increasing number of 16. Scientists feel that the word observer should stop being used in the aforementioned context, because it is impossible to observe a thing and not be involved in the creative process at the same time. Observing means taking part in the process of creation. No phenomenon is a real phenomenon until it is an observed phenomenon. John Wheeler. What we observe is not nature itself, but nature exposed to our method of questioning. Werner Heisenberg. We have merely touched upon the interpretations of some new insights in the area of quantum physics. Still, they have seriously shaken the foundations of science as we know it today. But you don't have to become an expert in quantum physics to begin consciously creating your reality. To begin with, it's quite enough to be open to the possibility that energy is in the essence of everything you see around you, as well as yourself, and that your reality is not destined beforehand. It does not depend on someone or something outside you. You are the one giving it form and content. I understand that at the outset, this seems completely illogical, but that does not mean it's impossible. There are numerous illogical phenomena, but they exist nonetheless, and we witness them on a daily basis. Can reason explain their placebo effect? Yet it is a real, everyday occurrence. One day, when you realize, at least to a certain extent, that you and everything around you is just energy, the boundaries between your worldviews of the physical and non-physical realms, as well as the boundaries between the material and spiritual, will change completely. And that is something beautiful and liberating in the fullest sense of the word. You are an energy being living in a universe of energy. 17. However, do not try to understand that using everyday logic. It is a concept you can only become aware of, not one you can comprehend with the intellect. Rationality rejects such a way of thinking, despite the thousands of pieces of scientific evidence supporting it. Attempting to understand oneself as an energy being living in an energy universe can only cause additional confusion. Your intellect has its goals and purposes, but it will definitely not help you understand the concept which I am presenting here. You might ask yourself what becoming aware means in the first place. Imagine that you are in the dark and that your current consciousness is represented by a light bulb shining with a power of 100 watts, enabling you to see things around you within a radius of 20 meters, 65 feet. Would it be correct to create a concept of your surroundings based only on what you can see right now? Now imagine that your light bulb begins to shine with a power of 1000 W, allowing you to see in a radius of 2000 meters, about a mile, around you. What would you see then? You would see something that was there earlier, but which you could not see before due to the limitation. Although this was just an obvious and common example, it is very similar to becoming aware of yourself as a being of energy in a universe of energy. Becoming aware does not mean discovering something new, it means becoming conscious of something that already is. We see this knowledge as new, because we haven't been aware of it before. The more we are aware of ourselves and the universe we live in, the more the image we see corresponds to the truth. Learning the skill. You might be asking yourself, what now? What does this all mean to me on a practical level? Will this information alone help me master the skill of conscious reality creation? If these are your thoughts, know that I agree with you. In this case, of course, the information alone means nothing. Still, before we delve any deeper, let's look at the term skill, shall we? 18. Imagine that you want to play the guitar. Playing the guitar is also a skill. Learning any skill, as well as perfecting it, implies going through different phases, which might seem unconnected at first sight. Yet after perfecting each one of the phases, your skill level increases and your skill becomes more complete. Doing technical exercises while learning how to play the guitar, for example, seems completely unimportant compared to the act of creating music, so they might appear superfluous and unnecessary to those who have never engaged in playing music. When a song is performed, you hear chords and tones within the same scale or in a combination of different scales. However, the quality of the performance largely depends on mastering the technical exercises. A guitar player can theoretically know all the chords and scales, and have a superb talent for music, but without having developed his technique sufficiently he will not be able to play a song that leaves the audience breathless. Although these technical exercises cannot be heard directly during the performances, mastering them contributes enormously to the quality of the performance. In addition to the technical training, the scales and the chords, a guitar player must know the theoretical foundation of it all. Some chords are mutually related, and combining them during a performance sounds meaningful compared to other chords, whose application would be superfluous in that moment and create disharmony in the music. The skill of creating desired experiences is, in essence, no different to the guitar example. It, too, consists of many phases, both theoretical and practical, which you have to go through and perfect to a certain degree, in order to ultimately be able to consciously perform an impressive piece called, A Life in Harmony with Your Deepest Desires. The better you master this skill, the better, more fulfilling, and more inspiring your musical composition, that is, your life, will be. Creating a new concept of yourself and the universe. Now let's start practically investigating the idea that you are an energy being living in a universe of energy, and slowly begin to become aware of, and master, one of the phases of conscious reality creation. We are brought up with the belief that we are physical beings, and that everything around us is physical, and, therefore, separated. As long as we look at life through the prism of this belief system, it will be all but impossible to master the forgotten skill of consciously creating our own reality, since we have started out with a flawed assumption. If we are heading in the wrong direction, then no vehicle, however perfect, will be able to take us to our destination. If our mind, and brain, is programmed to believe 19. That we are physical beings, and that everything that surrounds us is physical, then it becomes literally impossible to use tools for conscious reality creation, which are entirely, non-physical. Common sense tells us that something that cannot be seen, heard, touched or felt on the skin, cannot influence something that is purely physical, right? Therefore, in order to begin perfecting the skill of conscious reality creation, it is vital to change our concept of that same reality, as well as the concept of ourselves, and our role in life, with respect to that reality. Such a change does not occur overnight, however. It is a process whose duration can depend on numerous factors. There is no magic bullet for that. Every concept we believe in consists of many layers, and each layer requires a different approach. Remember that we are talking about the skill phase. Developing any skill demands an investment of your time and energy. If you are not ready to invest the time and energy needed, you can forget about getting the results. Theories abound about our arrival on this world. However, the fact is that they all agree that we have come to this world with no preconception about life or the reality we live in. Such an argument is easy to verify in practice. For example, had you been born in another culture, you would behave entirely differently to the way you behave now, and your worldviews would be completely different to the ones you have now. You would firmly believe that life and reality work in a certain way, in the same way that you have a firm belief about that now. You would have entirely different moral values and ideals. You would be deeply convinced that your beliefs are determined by nature, and are not a purely human creation which has turned into tradition thanks to constant repetition. But know that every tradition, and by that I also mean the belief system of a particular group of people, however ancient it might be, has a creation date. It is something that began as a new idea at the time, evolving with the passing of the ages, imprinting its concepts onto every child born into that tradition. With this in mind, we can easily conclude that our perception of ourselves and the reality we live in started to develop back in our early childhood days. The results of numerous investigations have shown that our brains absorb everything we see around us, using no filters whatsoever, until we are 7 years of age. 20. During that very period, the behaviors and experiences of people we frequently interact with become models for our own experiences. Our parents, school teachers, and others, presented us, directly or indirectly, with their visions of life and the world, while our minds, having no faculty of critical discernment, would soak up this information like a sponge, believing it to be the only correct view of life. Viewing life and reality through such prisms, or models, created in childhood, as well as naturally spending most of our time with people who think similarly, our concepts about life and reality become ever stronger and exclude other ways of looking at life. If you find yourself walking at night through a forest known for its many venomous snakes, and see a rope in front of you, you will most probably think it's a snake and panic. I think you'd agree with that, right? The fact that it's not a snake but a rope is completely irrelevant. Under the influence of the perception that it's a snake, you would behave exactly as you would if a venomous snake was actually near you. This is the effect of a given concept. You would feel fear, panic and an adrenaline rush in your body. Although the snake and rope allegory was just a trivial example, the power of the concept in question is clear, whether it be true or false. It is extremely important to understand and become aware of the above principle, because we all have a tendency to interpret what we see around ourselves as being right or wrong, taking our own personal viewpoint to be an objective standpoint. We probably don't know each other personally, but you can be sure that your concepts about life and reality, which you hold to be objective, are anything but objective. They are entirely subjective and exist nowhere else but in your mind, however real they might seem, and regardless of the number of people that share your beliefs. Every concept you have consists of a series of beliefs, and each belief is just a collection of thoughts that you have given a great deal of attention to. A belief is nothing more than a thought which you think, or used to think, frequently. Therefore, to change any concept, we have to change the beliefs which it is made up of, and in order to change our beliefs, we need to consciously choose to think different thoughts. 21. Now let's get back to the fact that you are an energy being living in a universe of energy. What would your concept of life need to be like in order to see yourself and your reality this way? Would that mean interfering with some very deeply held beliefs which you might be ready to give your life for? And what if you did that? Would it be more important to you to guard and protect such core beliefs, or would it be more valuable to become aware of who you really are, and how the game of life really works? Thoughts and neural networks. Numerous scientific studies done over the last decade in the field of neurology have shown that if you think the way you normally do, your brain works according to default neural settings, networks, and the whole thinking process takes place almost automatically, with no particular effort on your part. The results of these studies show that 96 to 98% of our behavior is automatic. However, as soon as you start thinking in an unconventional manner, you get a clear feeling that you need to exert much more effort to continue doing so. For example, when you speak your mother tongue, the process is automatic. But when you try to speak a foreign language that you've just begun learning, you have to apply much more effort. The reason for this, scientists conclude, is that every thought causes certain electrical impulses in your brain. These impulses significantly affect your existing neural networks. If you think a certain thought often, the electrical impulses thus created travel down the usual neural networks in your brain. But thinking about something that we haven't thought about so far, causes a kind of shock in your brain, which in turn resists processing these new electrical impulses. If, however, you go on thinking these new thoughts, despite the resistance you feel, the resistance begins to wane gradually, and the neurons in your brain start to rewire themselves anew in accordance with the new impulses they receive. The more you think in harmony with the new way of thinking, the easier this process becomes. Due to the new neural connections, your perception becomes aligned with your new way of thinking. Regardless of your age, your brain is always able to create new neural networks. 22. The above example shows that, despite the initial resistance you feel when you try to communicate in a foreign language, if you continue using it, the more time passes, the easier it will be for you to express yourself in the new language. It is quite logical that thinking about yourself as an energy being living in a universe of energy would create great resistance to such an idea, making you feel as if you are kidding yourself. The main reason is that the neural networks in your brain are completely aligned with the concept that you are a physical being living in a physical universe. However, the more you think about this new concept, that you are an energy being living in a universe of energy, the more real it will become. And, if you persist for long enough, your view of life and the world will change completely. It's just a matter of time and practice. Your brain sees and hears only what it is programmed to see and hear. If your brain isn't programmed to understand French, any information you receive in French will mean nothing to you. If your brain isn't musically trained, you won't be able to understand the nuances that create the difference between a good piece of music and a masterpiece. Always keep in mind that you observe with your eyes, but see with your brain. The eyes are just lenses that send information to the brain. You listen with your ears, but hear with your brain. Your brain gives sense and meaning to all the information you receive. Your normal way of thinking affects the sense and meaning that your brain will attach to the information you receive. Let's go on now. What our eyes see is a reflection of what scientists call luminous matter. However, scientists affirm that at least 95% of the mass of the universe is known as dark matter. Dark matter does not reflect the light, and is therefore invisible to the human eye, but can be measured due to its effect on the visible part of the universe. The only light our eyes can see is that which is reflected within the visible range of the electromagnetic spectrum. Now we come to something very interesting. The electromagnetic spectrum includes only 0.005% of the estimated mass of the universe. Bearing in mind that the human eye is unable to see all the frequencies of the electromagnetic spectrum, which in itself is only 0.005% of the mass of the universe, can we really be so sure of our claim that the world around us is exactly the way we see it at any given moment? 23. Max Planck, founder of the quantum theory, and Nobel laureate in physics, 1918, stated while receiving the Nobel Prize, "As a man who has devoted his whole life to the most clear-headed science, to the study of matter, I can tell you as a result of my research about atoms this much: there is no matter as such. All matter originates and exists only by virtue of a force which brings the particle of an atom to vibration and holds this most minute solar system of the atom together. We must assume behind this force the existence of a conscious and intelligent mind. This mind is the matrix of all matter." At the end of this book, in the appendix, I introduce 2 simple tools which can speed up your process of becoming aware of yourself as an energy being living in a universe of energy. They are the practices of A Game Without Limits, and meditation. Becoming aware of oneself as an energy being living in a universe of energy, is in my opinion, the most important, and at the same time, the most difficult phase of mastering the skill of conscious reality creation. We will be coming back to it throughout the book, to help you understand this concept better. 24. Part 2. T the heavy vibrational G gamum. 25. 26. Chapter 3. Our circumstances and us. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Max Planck. We have already talked about the fact that we live in a universe, which is, in essence, simply a wave of energy vibrating at varying vibrational frequencies, thereby creating an illusion of differences and separation. However, it is obvious that there must be some reason why such a beautiful vibrational game goes on continuously, harmoniously and perfectly. It's as if there were a perfect intelligence behind it that really knows what it's doing. Let's continue investigating the basic principles of how vibrations work. The kind of logic that was created in the spirit of the classical laws of physics, and which has been used as the starting point for all scientific research for the past several hundred years, tells us very clearly that we are all separate from one another, and that we have no influence on the universe we live in. Following this logic, we have learned to see ourselves as physical beings living in a physical universe which we cannot influence at all. We have also learned to see ourselves as being completely separate from each other. Living within the paradigm of such logic, it is easy to understand why most people deeply believe that their reality does not depend upon them, but entirely upon circumstances. They can only imagine a real change in their lives if the circumstances that hold them prisoner within their current reality change. Even those who are religious often turn to God in prayer, explaining their situation and begging Him to gift them a different reality, because they believe they deserve something far better. They see God as a being separate from themselves, who holds their fate in His hands, and uses special criteria to decide whether or not, and when, He will respond to their prayers. Waiting for their prayers to be fulfilled, many end up 27. Disappointed and stop believing that God even exists. If He did, He would certainly understand their situation and help them. At my seminars and private coaching sessions, I often hear the following from my clients: "If I had a different and more enterprising husband, my business wouldn't go broke. Had I been born in another country, it would have been much easier to start a business. All the men I've met so far are the same. I give up on men until they change. I know things aren't going well for me, but it's because of my bad karma. All women are the same. If they were different, I'd be a much better father to my children. If it hadn't been for that stupid professor, I wouldn't have dropped out of university." The above examples are just belief systems, built on the popular and widely held concept which says that the circumstances we find ourselves in are the main cause of what we experience in our reality, and until such circumstances, miraculously, change, there is nothing we can do about it. Don't be surprised if you catch yourself thinking similarly. Such thoughts are the result of centuries of programming which has been passed down from generation to generation, and which are not easy to erase. It's not easy, but it's definitely possible. Although many ancient manuscripts from different cultures often speak of humans and the universe being one connected whole, which originate from the same source and remain in constant mutual interaction, the fact is that modern science hasn't given this much attention until very recently. Those scientists who intuitively felt that this was indeed a possibility, but wished to retain the status of serious scientist, never dared to present a theoretical concept aligned with the ancient teachings. The healing effects of prayer, autosuggestion and similar phenomena, as well as telepathy, precognition, extrasensory perception, the placebo effect, spontaneous healings, etc. were not taken seriously by science, which would ascribe them to coincidence or superstition, to put it mildly. 28. Luckily, advanced technology allows us to get a clearer and more accurate insight into physical matter, its creation, existence and functioning. We have finally arrived at the possibility of scientifically proving, and satisfactorily explaining, that which various spiritual traditions have been trying to tell us for thousands of years. The newest discoveries of quantum physics clearly show that the subatomic particles which we discussed in Chapter 1, which our bodies and the universe are made up of, does not really obey the laws of physics which we have all been taught, and which were presented to us as absolute and unchangeable. A lot of research done under very rigorous lab conditions has clearly shown that the act of focusing our consciousness on something we are observing affects the thing we are observing. Therefore, what we call reality can be seen as the results of a very complex interaction taking place between our consciousness and the environment. The phantom DNA effect was first observed at the Russian Academy of Sciences in Moscow, during various experiments whose aim was to investigate the behavior of quantum particles under various potentially influencing factors. The experiment, led by Dr. Pupnin, began by making a special tube from which all the air had been sucked out. Although there was no air inside the tube, the scientists knew that the photons would remain inside it. Using special equipment for observing quantum particles, scientists could easily locate the photons within the vacuum tube. As they had expected, the photons were observed everywhere, in no particular order. The experiment was then supposed to check the behavior of photons in the presence of DNA samples. After placing a DNA sample in the same tube, the scientists got a real surprise. In the presence of the DNA sample, the photons arranged themselves in a completely different manner than in the tube with no DNA sample. After several repeat experiments, it became clear to the scientists that a DNA sample affected the behavior of photons, quantum particles. Since the universe is made up of quantum particles, the experiment clearly confirmed that our DNA directly affects the physical world we live in. 2. 1. Dr. Pupnin is a quantum physicist, acknowledged around the world as a leading expert in quantum biology, including the nonlinear dynamics of DNA and the interactions of weak electromagnetic fields with biological systems. During the experiments, the scientists were surprised by the following. After the DNA sample was removed from the vacuum tube, the light particles continued behaving as if the DNA sample was still. 29. The above-mentioned experiments, and many others, clearly show that we are not simply passive observers whose circumstances depend on something outside us. The development of technology brings ever more scientific evidence which shows that we can create the reality of our choice, and that we are constantly creating our reality, even when we are not aware of it. You are an energy being, living in a universe of energy. The interaction between you and the universe is uninterrupted, whether you are aware of it or not. The universe constantly receives the vibrations you send it and responds in kind. Your life circumstances are simply a reflection of the dominant vibration you have been sending out into the universe, consciously or otherwise. If you change the vibration you radiate, you will begin to change your life circumstances. In order to change your current circumstances, do not waste time focusing on the existing situation and looking for a way out of it. The desired change is not to be found in the present circumstances but in changing the vibration we are emitting. The solution to a problem is never found in the places where our attention is drawn by it. We can't solve problems by using the same kind of thinking we used when we created them. Albert Einstein. In the following chapter we will be talking about how to change our vibration and create the desired changes effectively. As you read, always keep in mind the following: you are an energy being living in a universe of energy. There is an uninterrupted line of communication between you and the universe at every moment. Your life circumstances are the reflection of the vibration you emit. Inside the tube, which led to many questions concerning this issue, we are still trying to find the answers. 30. The vibrational frequency you emit depends on where you focus your consciousness. The act of focusing your consciousness is an act of creating your reality. 31. Chapter 4. The Art of Conscious Focus. Life consists in what a man is thinking of all day. Ralph Waldo Emerson. As we have already mentioned, the mere act of focusing our consciousness is an act of creation. Our consciousness is always focused on something, which means that we are always creating something. This includes recreating existing situations. Our consciousness focuses in accordance with the way we think and the thoughts we use when we are thinking. Let's look at the next phase of the forgotten skill and learn how to consciously focus our consciousness on what we wish to experience in our reality. This will allow us to create a vibration within us that will attract the desired reality to us. What does conscious focus really mean? It's a strange world, isn't it? If we look at things rationally, it seems that very little of what we see is logical. Some people seem to achieve great success in everything they do without much effort, while others, despite constant effort, do not manage to do even half of what they would like to. Some people find that taking care of their health is their highest priority, and yet, health seems to constantly elude them. Others break all the rules of a healthy lifestyle, yet still manage to live to a ripe old age in good health. Some people have harmonious and fulfilling relationships with most people they meet, while others, despite trying, don't succeed in maintaining harmonious relationships with those around them. It might seem at first sight that fate is playing games with us, and that our experience of reality depends only on luck and coincidence. Yet that isn't the case. The universe we live in is a place in which the rules of the game of life are clearly set. However, the erroneous paradigms that have been permeating the world keep us 32. Anchored in an illusion in which we feel that we do not have the strength it takes to create the changes we desire. But what does conscious focus mean in the first place? Does it make you think of a person who is deeply concentrating on one thing, unable to think of anything else? Yes, that too is one of the ways of consciously focusing your consciousness. However, I would like to particularly draw your attention to one kind of inner dialogue, which takes place within us almost constantly. It is when we talk to ourselves mentally. It is this conversation that is most responsible for your current perception and experience of life. Our inner dialogue is very quiet and mysterious, and we are often not even aware of it. But the fact that we are not aware of it does not mean that it is not affecting our lives. Indeed, it is the cause of most of what you experience as your reality. You've probably heard that water dropping continuously on a stone eventually makes a hole in it. Your inner dialogue works in a similar way, except that here the stone is found in a part of our mind often called the unconscious or subconscious mind. The way you communicate with yourself, your inner dialogue, has a great impact on your beliefs and the way you look at life. It is a sort of subtle programming of our subconscious mind, which, once programmed to work in a certain direction, begins its own activity in accordance with the programs that are within it. These programs are the main reason why you hesitate to make a certain decision, even though you know that it would help you. These programs will defeat your every wish if there is a disagreement between your wishes and them. If the programs in your subconscious are not aligned with what you want, no amount of willpower or strength of character will help you achieve your desire. A good part of this programming, that is, the creation of our subconscious programs, occurs in our childhood years, when we do not assess the meaningfulness and legitimacy of these programs critically. We therefore equate them with the nature of reality, and find it difficult to understand that it is precisely due to these programs that we experience our lives the way we do. However quiet and unseen it might be, our inner dialogue is a huge force which affects our reality enormously. The fact is, none of us are able to switch it off. Our 33. Conscious mind is constantly active while we are awake, and there is nothing we can do about it. However, once we start to become aware of the importance of our inner dialogue and its effects, we will be able to start consciously controlling the direction and manner of our inner communication, and we will be able to choose a way of communication that supports what we wish to experience in our reality. If your inner dialogue is often unsupportive of the reality you want to experience, and this is the case with a great number of people, you can be sure that you will never create your desired reality until you change the way that you communicate with yourself. Many people don't pay much attention to their inner dialogue because they are unaware of its power. They find it difficult to understand that it could play such a crucial role in their lives. We weren't taught about its importance in school. Nobody asked us what we were thinking about inside. We are conditioned by the paradigm that what we think about in our heads is not important, and that what we say out loud is. Given that our attention has been directed for years towards what we say out loud, we have neglected to take into account the silent communication with ourselves that is constantly taking place within us. It's time to understand the importance of this inner communication, and to consciously begin paying attention to how it unfolds from day to day. It is crucial to become aware of this area of the forgotten skill. You need to perfect your inner dialogue daily, and gradually make it such that it resonates with the exact experience you wish to make your life's reality. If you do not change your inner dialogue, you can forget about seeing permanent life changes. If you do change the way you communicate with yourself, you will change your life. The difference between thinking and mental activity. 34. A great many people think they are thinking when they are really rearranging their prejudices. William James. Thinking is a creative process. It means to ponder something, to reflect on something in a way and direction which we have not yet taken with respect to a certain topic. It is an entirely conscious and creative act, which always finds new solutions. But thinking is also a mental activity. The problem is that people often equate thinking with mental activity, which, in essence, is not the same thing. Many assume that they are thinking when they feel that their mind is active and that something is happening inside it. However, most people continually keep on repeating the same movie reel, which takes place almost automatically in their heads. Patterns of thinking, formed by many years of internal dialogue, keep them prisoner within their already created subconscious programs. So the same thoughts are repeated over and over again, making a solution to the current situation impossible. Many believe that they are thinking positively, striving to do whatever they think necessary, and do not see why their goals are not turning into reality. It is not just a few special people somewhere out there who are locked into fixed patterns with no solution in sight. Each one of us has his or her own thought patterns which stop us from seeing the bigger picture, and which cause us to make the wrong decisions. This is precisely why it is extremely important to understand one's inner dialogue and replace the present mental activity with thinking. Whenever you feel that you have been thinking about something for a long time without seeing any positive changes or satisfactory solutions, know that your mental activity has been revolving around your preset mental patterns. Hence it has not been a conscious, creative act of thinking, but a program which has been repeating itself within preset mental parameters. These patterns cannot be changed overnight. It requires your commitment and a thorough, serious approach. Thinking is the hardest work there is, which is the probable reason why so few engage in it. 35. Henry Ford. If you wish to live your life and create reality the way you wish it to be deep inside, learning to think is a must. Thinking is an activity, which, like any other, needs to be practiced in order to be properly developed. This does not mean that you should stop with all your activities and retire to a monastery or other isolated place. You can do all this during your daily activities and make your day even more exciting, interesting and fulfilling. All you need to do to begin is to start listening to the way you talk to yourself on an everyday basis, and correct yourself every time you notice that this dialogue is not moving in the desired direction. Preferably do this as soon as you notice that it has started happening, because the longer you wait, the more difficult it is to stop. With this approach, you are gradually creating new patterns, programs, in your subconscious mind. This will allow you to open yourself more and more to new things and experience exactly what you desire. Let's look at one example of inner dialogue. In its background there is a subconscious program which isn't allowing you to start a more fulfilling activity in your life. We will look at ways to get out of this situation. As usual, it is about a subconscious program which you have created unwittingly, and have believed until now that things are the way they are because that's just the way reality is. Let's say that you want to take up yoga. You learned about an interesting yoga center nearby, and decided to sign up. You have started doing the exercises, and you can clearly feel that it is benefiting you in all aspects of your life. However, after just a few days of practicing, an inner dialogue surfaces. What I'm doing, practicing yoga, is really good, but I just don't have time for it. I have children and responsibilities. I can't exercise every day. Maybe in a few years' time, my life situation will have changed and I'll be able to set aside some time for yoga. Doing it now makes no sense. I could use the hour and a half in a more productive way. My competitors at work are thinking up new ideas during this time, and I'm doing nothing. I can barely handle my present responsibilities, let alone new ones. I can't afford it. I don't have time for it. It's easy for these other people to exercise, they don't have the obligations I do. My job is a higher priority. I can't do this. Maybe someday in the future. 36. If you allow your inner dialogue to behave as in the above example, you will give up yoga very quickly even though you are well aware of its effectiveness in all areas of your life, because your subconscious program will always overpower your wish, if it is not vibrationally aligned with it. Whether you can actually find time for yoga or not is besides the point. As long as you are guided by this inner dialogue, as in the example above, there will be no change. Perhaps you would become more efficient, productive, focused, and full of energy by practicing yoga on a daily basis. You would not need excessive sleep and you would have more free time, which in turn would help you get ahead at your job. But the destructive inner dialogue fogs up the real picture, and mentally imprisons you within its defined patterns. Remember the introductory story about elephant training. Look around you and you will see many people leading daily battles in various aspects of life. They hope that they will still manage to change something and be able to start enjoying life one day. Are their expectations realistic? Or do you think that they are living awake in a dream world? Do you believe that their quality of life grows in proportion to their increased earnings, and that their responsibilities diminish thanks to the money? Is this not just another stereotypical story with a well-known ending? There is a natural mechanism in each of us which constantly drives us to become better. Whatever we do, we believe that by doing it we will better ourselves and our lives. You are only drawn towards certain goals because you believe that they will make you happy and fulfilled, regardless of the goal in question. However, happiness and fulfillment are not found when the goal is reached. Happiness is the path, not the destination. If your path to the goal is not filled with joy, you will certainly not experience what you had been hoping for at the start, even when you achieve your goal. The goal in itself means nothing. What matters is your experience of the goal and the process of reaching it. 37. Without conscious inner change there is no change in the matrix which we call our reality. Our reality is a reflection of our state of mind, and only you can change the state of your own mind, and it can only be done consciously. Wherever you go, your mind goes with you. As long as you are alive, you cannot get rid of it. You can change your job, your sex, your partner, your place of residence, you can retire, or whatever. But know that as long as you do not change the programs formed in your subconscious mind, your basic experience of life will not change. Maybe one day, with no inner change, you will no longer find the same reasons stopping you from living the life you deeply desire to live. But you can be sure that it is just a matter of time before new reasons appear, that is, you create them, reasons real and important enough to stop you from allowing joy to rule your reality. So the next time you realize that you are talking to yourself, and see that the communication does not support what you truly wish to experience, stop it immediately and consciously start a new type of communication. If you become aware that the flow of communication in your mind is occurring in a way that does not suit you, immediately replace it with communication that is in harmony with what you want, or that is at least neutral for starters. Perhaps it is difficult to quickly find a story that is more likable to your mind, but you can always stop your unwanted self-talk with the neutral way of thinking. For example, if you become aware that your inner dialogue revolves around not being able to find a desired job, and you find it difficult to even think of a happier story, then at least talk to yourself about the ways to make use of all the positive things at your current job. Such a dialogue will probably not lead you to your desired job immediately, but it will at least neutralize the destructive story in your head and create space for a new kind of communication. The art of asking questions. A paradigm shift occurs when a question is asked inside the current paradigm that can only be answered from outside it. Marilee Goldberg. 38. You can also change your unwanted inner dialogue by asking yourself carefully worded questions. Our brain loves looking for answers to questions. If you ask yourself questions, you direct your mind towards finding answers. Questions control the direction of our thinking and the way we think. Meaningful questions arouse our imaginations and creative thinking. They help us rise above our limitations. They open the door to new insights. However, not every method of asking questions will change our inner dialogue. Questions that change our inner dialogue can be divided into two categories, open and closed. Closed questions are those which can be answered with one word or phrase. In certain ways, they close our minds to looking for different options. For example, coming back to the yoga example, a closed type of question might be, is there any way I could find some spare time to do yoga? The answer would be yes or no. How come other people do have time for it, and I don't? Answer, because they don't have as demanding a job as I do. Therefore, closed questions will not change our inner dialogue significantly, because they do not activate our emotions and our creativity, nor do they offer us different possibilities of thinking. The answers to such questions are always short and factual, and this is not what we need. In order to change our inner dialogue, it is important to ask open questions. Such questions open our mind to new possibilities. They stimulate our emotions, our imagination and creativity. Such questions need time to be answered. Open questions open up new topics. Getting answers to them requires you to think. They take us into the uncharted territories of our minds, which are full of numerous possibilities. For example, instead of allowing your inner dialogue to say things like this, "I have no time for yoga. I have kids and many responsibilities. I can't practice every day. I can barely fulfill all my present obligations, let alone take up new ones," etc. Replace it with questions such as, "How could I cut down on some of my current obligations to make more time for yoga? How am I wasting my time? How could I become more efficient and productive at work, so I can have more free time?" 39. What would it be like if I delegated some of my work to someone who would be able to do it even better than myself? What would happen if I started using new technologies instead of all that paperwork? Who could give me advice on that? How do some people with a similar job to mine manage to find time for their hobbies? Which books could I read about time management? Who could help me analyze my current situation and give me innovative guidelines on how to think about it? If I had an hour to solve a problem and my life depended on the answer, I would spend the first 55 minutes figuring out the proper questions to ask. For if I knew the proper questions, I could solve the problem in less than 5 minutes. Albert Einstein. Close your eyes and say to yourself, "I don't have enough time in life." Keep your eyes closed for another 10 seconds. How do you feel after such a statement? And now, with closed eyes, ask yourself, how could I reorganize my life in the following 3 weeks to make more time for the things I love doing? Again, keep your eyes closed for 10 seconds. How do you feel after that question? Do you notice any difference in the way your mind works when you affirm that you do not have enough time, and when you ask yourself how to reorganize your life to make the required time? Don't you feel more open and motivated for new possibilities after asking the question, as opposed to the statement? 40. Therefore, although you started off with the assumption that you do not have enough time for the things you want, questions will open you up to new ideas which would not have occurred to you otherwise. When changing your unwanted inner dialogues, avoid starting your questions with a why, because they will just loop you back to the inner dialogue you wish to change. For example, why don't I have more time for yoga? Answer, because I have too many responsibilities, etc. Why can the other participants practice regularly, and I can't? Answer, because they don't have as many obligations as I do. Instead of starting your questions with a why, start them with how, what, when, who, where and what if. Using such questions, you will divert your inner dialogue to where you want it to go much more easily. So what's my next step? There is one question that can redirect your inner dialogue and at the same time open you to the possibility of taking immediate action. For example, you have understood that there is often an inner dialogue within you that is blocking you from starting doing something new, constantly warning you that now is not the time to do it because you're too busy anyway. You might really want to learn web design, but the longer you think about it, the more your inner speaker starts his usual counter-arguments. If you start arguing with your interlocutor, you can be sure that you will give up going through with your ideas. To become a good web designer, you need great talent, lots of effort, and time, and you do not have it. If, however, instead of discussing the issue you ask yourself the question, what should my next step be? And persist in thinking about that question until you get a satisfactory answer, you will understand that there is always at least one thing you can do at any given moment to get a step closer to your desired goal. Perhaps you really do not have the time to attend a web design school or course, but you can always find a good book and start with the basics of web design. Once you understand the basics on a theoretical level, and continue to ask yourself, what should my next step be? There is a great chance of you finding a way that will allow you to get even closer to the goal you aspire to. Go step by step, and you will reach your goal. The quality of your life is directly proportional to the quality of the questions you ask. Tony Robbins. 41. You can be quite sure that starting the process of changing your unwanted inner dialogue will be neither simple nor easy, nor will you find that things will change for the better dramatically at the very outset. But don't let that stop you. Know that you have spent years creating the patterns within which your inner dialogues have been occurring, and that you will have to invest some time and effort into changing them. Many of these dialogues were not created to support the reality that we wish to experience, but we have not been aware of this and have often wondered why some unwanted experiences happen to us. In any case, it's never too late to change. During a single day, hundreds, sometimes thousands, of inner dialogues take place within our heads. The results of these dialogues are the foundations of all the decisions we make, be they good or bad. The question is, how conscious are we of them? Because our thinking process is simultaneously a focusing of our consciousness, since our consciousness is focused in the direction of our thoughts, controlling our inner dialogues represents one of the ways we can deliberately focus our consciousness. The act of focusing consciousness is an act of deliberate creation. Let your consciousness be focused on what truly inspires you and brings you joy, as often as possible. This approach is the only guarantee of a happy and fulfilled reality. Remove the words positive and negative thinking from your dictionary. They are nothing more than labels that serve no purpose. The goal of mastering this phase of the forgotten skill is not to become a positive person or to stop being a negative one, but rather, to find ways of communicating with yourself that will enable you to feel the way you want to. Your conscious choice of how to communicate with yourself to bring up the desired emotions is an act which will consciously create an environment in your reality that will multiply such emotions. Let's remind ourselves of some ideas from the previous chapters. You are an energy being living within a universe of energy. As long as you are awake, you are always thinking about something, whether you are aware of it or not. 42. The words you say out loud are the reflection of the thoughts you think, and the emotions you are feeling at the time. Even when you say nothing aloud, there is a constant inner dialogue within you. Whether you are talking aloud or thinking inwardly, the thoughts you are currently thinking are in the background. Every thought you think activates the corresponding vibrations within you, since you are an energy being. You emit vibrations that are active within you throughout the day. The vibrations you emit cause the circumstances you experience. The vibrational frequency you are emitting depends on the type of thought you are thinking and on the way you think. The longer you think a certain thought, the more powerful the vibration which such a thought activates becomes. You can consciously affect your inner dialogues, and choose the kinds of thoughts and ways of thinking that are most aligned with what you wish to experience in life. You can create the experiences you desire. 43. Chapter 5. Our Natural Inner Compass. In this phase of the forgotten skill, I would like to remind you of something wonderful that is within you. It's 100% free, and needs no maintenance. We all have an inbuilt natural compass which shows us whether or not we are creating the reality we truly desire at any given moment. Our inner compass is infallible and always shows us the right path. Our inner compass is invisible. Our inner compass cannot be touched. We cannot lose it, nor can it be stolen from us. However, many have forgotten that they even have it, and despite being in touch with it every day, they still do not understand its significance. What am I talking about? About our feeling capacity. We can feel different emotions, and they are the main indicator of the vibration we are broadcasting to the universe. Emotions are like a universal language, through which the universe is clearly telling us what we are creating at any given moment. In other words, the ability to feel was bestowed on us so that we could know what kind of reality we are creating at any time. Isn't that wonderful? Isn't it great that, at any given moment, we can know what it is we are creating in our experience, enabling us to supervise our lives completely? That in itself should be enough for our hearts to always be filled with gratitude to the universe. 44. In order to use our inner compass efficiently, a vital phase of the forgotten skill is the development of emotional awareness. The best way to develop emotional awareness is to take account of what we feel on a daily basis. You don't need to forego all your usual activities in order to make some free time to start developing emotional awareness. What you do need is mental involvement, not extra time. In the pages that follow, I am going to put forth two simple, but extremely powerful questions which can be of great help to you on the path of becoming emotionally aware. But in order for these questions to be effective, you need to ask yourself them, and the more frequently, the better. What emotions am I feeling right now? And are these emotions showing me that I'm creating my reality in the desired direction or not? If the emotions you are feeling are in harmony with what you wish to create in your reality, then simply go on thinking in the same manner and direction. However, if the emotions you are feeling are not aligned with the experience you wish to create, then change your current way of thinking and begin with a new one. Thought precedes emotion, that is, your thoughts determine the emotions you feel. You are free and can think about whatever you choose, and in any way you choose. This being the case, you are free to activate any emotion in your body. So play with the different emotions. Feel how each emotion fits you and which emotion resonates most with what you want to experience. Remember that, in essence, everything is energy. Perhaps it is just a single emotion. Or maybe it is a combination of several. 45. Regardless of your life circumstances, you are free to choose the thoughts you will think. The thoughts you think and the way you think direct your consciousness in the direction of your thinking. The very fact that you are thinking about something means that your consciousness is focused on what you are thinking about. Wherever your consciousness is directed, the experience of your reality is being built, since the act of focusing your consciousness is an act of creation. The emotions you feel while you are thinking about something show you whether you are creating your reality in the desired direction, or away from it, regardless of your wishes and intentions. The process of using your inner compass might seem very abstract at the start. Don't be surprised if you find it challenging to feel the differences between the various emotions, or to know what you are creating at any particular moment. However, the more you use your inner compass, the more skilled you will become, and you will begin to perceive the distinctions between the different emotions, as well as the various nuances within a single emotion. Everything we have talked about, therefore, speaks of a new way of looking at life and people around ourselves. Instead of relying on our logic and our conscious minds, which contain very little information and can never provide us with complete advice, we begin to rely, and depend on, the wisdom of the universe. We are never alone on the path of creating our reality. The universe we live in is a field of unlimited intelligence and wisdom. The wisdom of the universe is our constant companion, always giving us advice about our direction on the path of creating our desired experiences, whether we are conscious of this or not. Isn't it wonderful to have such an assistant? The greatest myth about negative emotions. In view of what we have said so far, you can easily conclude that the so-called negative emotions do not exist. They are just a myth, which still exists due to our insufficient knowledge about the nature and purpose of emotions. All emotions, even the negative ones, show us what kind of vibration we are emitting at any point in time, that is, what kind of reality we are creating. 46. If you feel, feeling capacity, inner compass, an emotion, indicator of the vibration you are emitting, which you see as being unwanted, this means that, at that moment in time, you are emitting into the universe a vibrational frequency which will basically bring you an unwanted experience. To recap, the emotions often labeled negative are nothing more than signposts which show us the direction in which we are creating our experience. How can we call a signpost, the so-called negative emotion, which shows us clearly and in a timely fashion that we are going in the wrong direction. Negative. Could we call a sign which says, "Stop, precipice ahead," negative, simply because we do not wish to see that we are driving towards a chasm? Therefore, every emotion is, in fact, a positive emotion, because it gives you clear insight into the direction you are traveling in. Be grateful for every emotion you feel, as you would be grateful to a person who stops you while driving, advising you to change your direction because the road ahead is too slippery and dangerous to drive on. Unfortunately, many psychologists and self-help experts have made a whole science out of resolving negative emotions, thereby labeling as negative one of the most important tools of conscious reality creation: unwanted emotions. Advertising and the development of emotional awareness. One of the ways of developing emotional awareness can be watching and listening to advertisements, but in a very specific way. Most advertising attempts to link a product to certain emotions and somehow convince you that buying the advertised product will bring you the desired emotional experience. Advertising, if it is well done, should always aim for the emotions of potential customers, not their logical minds. In sales, there is a well-known rule: the customer decides with his emotions, and only uses logic to justify his decision. There are ads that attempt to bring up your fears of the possible undesirable consequences of not purchasing their product. This is especially true in the case of medicines, diets, religious advertising, etc. 47. Do not watch an ad passively, because this is mostly a waste of time, but use those few minutes of watching to become aware of what emotions the ad brings up in you. Use those commercial breaks to perfect your emotional awareness. Which basic emotion is the ad trying to activate inside you, and connect it to that particular product? Is the ad trying to scare you with unwanted consequences, using fear to try to make you buy the product being offered? Companies working on developing their brand name try to use advertising to link their brand to certain emotions, so that their products are perceived by you as being higher status. Play with this, and try to find out which emotions they are. Time is very valuable, and should be used much more productively than just passively watching or listening to commercials. To achieve a higher level of emotional awareness, you should work with emotions regularly. Analyzing advertisements is just one more practical way of perfecting the forgotten skill. 48. Chapter 6. The Emotion Factory. We are vibrational beings, constantly emitting the vibration which we are radiating. The more we think about something, the stronger the vibration we emit becomes. The stronger the vibration, the more powerfully the universe responds. The emotion factory is an intensive process of consciously creating desired experiences. Its main function is to strengthen your ability to focus your consciousness in the desired direction, which leads to a faster and more efficient creation of your desired reality. You can use the emotion factory process whenever you wish and as often as you wish. Use this process until you reach your desired goal. Before you start the process, think carefully about which aspect of your reality you wish to work on. Be honest with yourself, and choose only those goals which truly make you happy and which you feel resonate with the deepest part of yourself. There is no point in wasting your life on goals just to prove something to someone, or to reach society's standards of success. When choosing and setting your goals, always keep in mind that the only important thing is what you feel and consider worthwhile. Choose a goal that you feel is possible and achievable, otherwise you will find it difficult to maintain the required emotional alignment. 3. It is preferable to make the goals you plan on working on clear and thought out in detail. To make sure that they are, you can use the following method. 3. You can read about getting into emotional alignment with the desired goal in the following chapters. 49. Imagine there is a factory that can produce each and every goal exactly the way you want it, but you can only communicate with the factory in writing. Think about your goal and write it out in detail. Also write down the emotions you wish to feel when you achieve your goal. When you have done this, ask yourself, Will the factory worker who takes orders understand exactly what I want, using nothing more than my description? If your answer is affirmative, your goal is most likely clear. If not, it is unclear. Wanting good health, more money, a good job, more free time, many friends, a dream partner, happiness in life, etc., is quite all right, but it is not a goal. A goal needs to be clear and well defined, otherwise it is not a goal. Many people think they have goals, but these are merely abstract and unclear ideas. Imagine what the worker of our imaginary factory would think if you sent him an order saying, "I want more money." What would you think if you were him? How would you react to such an order? What does "I want more money" mean anyway? An extra $1 a month in income is more money than you received the month before. Would you be satisfied with that? If, after doing the suggested method of checking the clarity of your goals, you realize that your goal is unclear, or not clear enough, don't worry. Simply restart the process of the emotion factory using symbols, as I will explain soon. When using this process, you can work on one goal, or on several, it only depends on your priorities and free time. My advice is to spend at least 5 minutes on each goal, more if you wish. In order for the process to be of greatest use to you, take it seriously. It is truly a serious thing, because we are talking about your life experience. Every moment of your life is a unique and unrepeatable phenomenon. Let's begin. 50. The process is done sitting or lying down, with eyes closed. I suggest you turn off your telephone or cell phone. Take a minute, more if you feel it is necessary, listening to your breathing and feel yourself sinking deeper and deeper with every exhalation. Allow yourself to relax as much as you can. The more relaxed you are during the process, the faster and better your results will be. Now think about the goal you wish to achieve. When you have defined the desired goal, start the production process by asking yourself, what would I feel like if my goal was already reached? Spend the next 5 minutes, more if you feel it's suitable, thinking about, and feeling, what that would be like. Use everything you feel is necessary to experience that your goal has already been achieved. The main purpose of the emotion factory is to reach a state of emotional alignment with the reality in which your goal is already achieved, and to stay in this state for several minutes. Here are a few more tips which might help you feel and visualize, as clearly as possible, the experience of your goal being achieved. Mental images. Imagine you live in a reality in which your goal has already been reached. Feel the emotions which would flood you. Which new experiences you would live. What your day would be like. How people would react to you. How they would treat you. How they would comment on your new experience. What changes your desired goal would bring into your life. Try to bring as many details as possible into this image/scenario. If it is applicable to the imagined situation, smell the scents and hear the sounds. Imagine the scenes and the images that most powerfully awaken the emotions you wish to feel. Be as creative as you can. Enter the imagined situation and experience it as being as realistic as possible. Feel the feeling of gratitude which you would have if you had achieved your goal right now. But do not do this as if you were a mere observer of the imagined scene. Enter it completely, think, look, listen, and feel within it. 51. During the process, don't place limits on your imagination. Nothing is more important than emotionally experiencing, as realistically as possible, the answer to the question, how would I feel if my goal was already achieved? If you cannot create a clear mental image, don't worry. Remember that this is a process of creating emotions, and answering the question how you would feel if your goal was already reached. The important thing is to use your thoughts to activate the desired emotions, not to create a perfect mental image or scenario. This is not about the classical method of visualization. What is key in this process is to create the clearest emotions you wish to experience. It probably won't happen during your first use of the process for a certain goal, but, over time, your emotions will become clearer and better defined, and that's exactly what we want to achieve with the Emotion Factory process. Once you manage to feel clear and well-defined emotions regarding a certain goal, your vision will also become clear. In fact, not only will your vision become clearer under the influence of clear and well-defined emotions, but it will appear in your mind with no conscious effort. A vision created by clear and well-defined emotions will be one that best resonates with the emotions you consciously maintain active. It must be said that the more you repeat this process, the better your ability to imagine images and scenarios will become. Prior experiences. Another way of achieving emotional alignment with the reality in which our goal is already created, is to remember prior experiences of the emotions we wish to reactivate. We know that there are no two equal experiences, since every experience we have is unique, but if you remember an experience from the past similar to the one you wish to feel, it can be an emotional starting point which you will later adapt to your new desire. 52. Symbols. If you feel that your current life circumstances or limiting beliefs are stopping you from imagining your new reality, which includes your already accomplished goal, imagine a symbol that will represent your goal. A symbol can also be of great help if your goal is not a solid thing or event, but the development of certain aspects of your personality. You can use symbols if you want to see changes in certain areas of your life, for example, job or career, but you still have not clearly defined your goal in that area. Anything that comes to mind can be used as a symbol: numbers, letters, geometric shapes, images, scenery, such as a sunset, etc. When using symbols, it is important to bear in mind what the symbol represents, that is, make an agreement with yourself that the symbol represents your goal, accomplished in a way that best resonates with what you want to experience deep inside by getting it. I am going to give you an example of how to use symbols, with additional hints on how to use symbols efficiently. Let's say that you wish to set up a new business, or to find an adequate job. If you wish to start a new business or find an adequate job, it is very likely that, at the outset, you do not have a clear idea of how to do this. There are a few things, however, that are very clear. You want a job in which you can move up. A job which will allow you to display some of your talents. A dynamic rhythm. Being in touch with many people. A friendly atmosphere at work, and earnings that can support your desired lifestyle. 53. Okay, so you don't know what kind of job that will be, but you do know what you wish to experience. The emotional experience, and that is quite enough for you to be able to begin the Emotion Factory process using a symbol. Let's say you have chosen a symbol shaped like a red triangle which will represent your desired goal in the Emotion Factory process, including all the emotional experiences you would like to live. You have started the Emotion Factory process, and asked yourself the question, how would I feel if my goal was already accomplished? And you then thought of the symbol representing your goal, that is, the red triangle. Having done that, try to feel the desired experience for as if it had already happened. Every so often, remember your symbol and observe how it behaves. In your imagination, it could be moving, dancing, spinning, changing its position, size, shape or color. Whatever is going on with the symbol is just fine. Allow it to move freely within your imagination. If, after doing the process several times, you find another symbol is more appropriate, play with the new symbol. The most important thing is to know what the symbol represents to you, and to activate as intensely as possible the emotions you feel will be in your body when you achieve your goal. The more you repeat this process, for a specific goal, the clearer your vision will become. At the start, only certain aspects of the vision will be clear, but over time your vision will become more complete. Repeating the process makes your emotions clearer and more specific, and you will become more capable of recognizing a great idea or opportunity when it appears. Perhaps it will be an opportunity that was already present, or you might get an idea of how to proceed with something that doesn't exist yet, such as a new business. It could happen that you resonate with something that, at first glance, has no logical connection to what you think you want, only to later find out that it was a necessary step towards your goal. For example, you might feel a strong urge to perfect a foreign language, and find out later on that a foreign company is looking for someone just like you, one of their main requirements being a good knowledge of their language. 5. In any case, in the emotion factory process, the main aim is to use your mind to create the emotions you wish to feel by achieving a certain goal, and spend at least 5 minutes a day in that emotional state. For the feeling you wish to experience through attaining your goal. 5 more on this topic in Part 4, Inspired Action. 54. If, during the process, you find it challenging to imagine and feel yourself in the new reality, which includes the attainment of your goal, remember that the universe reacts to the thoughts you are offering it, not to the situation you are in. The universe never asks you what your current situation is. Your friend or neighbor might ask you about that, but keep in mind that the universe is only interested in the vibration you are offering. From the universe's point of view, your current situation is the result of the vibration you have been emitting so far. The universe does not react to the current situation, but to the vibration you are sending it while you are in the situation. Regardless of your situation right now, you can use your imagination to think about the reality that would make you feel precisely the way you want to feel. Do not allow the current situation to stop you from doing that. You have been given an imagination so you can create the new realities that you desire. Imagination is more important than knowledge. Albert Einstein. Imagination rules the world. Napoleon Bonaparte. 55. Chapter 7. Limiting Approaches. In this chapter we will talk about some approaches to conscious reality creation which hinder the process of creation significantly, regardless of which phase of the forgotten skill you are in. To become a master of the forgotten skill, you must become aware of these limiting approaches so that you can recognize and change them on time. These approaches are, forecasting the path to your goal, jumping to early conclusions, and a frantic attachment to attaining the goal. Limiting approach number 1, forecasting the path to the goal. One of the factors which decreases the efficiency of the emotion factory process in most people, as well as the efficiency of the forgotten skill, is forecasting the way in which the goal manifesting process will take place. The more you think about the series of events which should take place in your life in order to reach your goal, the more you put the brakes on the efficacy of the entire process. In the process of creating your desired experiences, that part is not your job. Your job is to define your desired reality as clearly as possible, and to be as vibrationally aligned as possible with this new reality. You should do this by using your mind in such a way that you reach a state in which you feel as if your goal, or goals, have already been reached, and maintain such a state for as long as possible. I know this is no easy task, so I would advise you to start the emotion factory process, as well as use the forgotten skill, with something you feel is a smaller and more easily accomplished goal. By doing this, you will start trusting the universe more, as well as your ability to create reality consciously. The more capable you feel of consciously creating your reality, the more you trust the universe and see it as a partner that fulfills your instructions faithfully, the more easily you will be able to let go and allow it to do its part of the job successfully. 56. Don't be too critical and hard on yourself if you often feel an inner battle between letting go and forecasting how the goal will be accomplished. If we go back to the example of learning the skill of guitar playing, it is obvious that a certain amount of time and energy needs to be spent on practicing if you wish to make a certain chord you've learned sound well. The more you practice the chord you learn, the better and more harmonious your playing becomes. The same goes for this phase of the forgotten skill. If you start looking for books, audio programs and the like on the internet, you will find a huge variety of products which literally guarantee that you will achieve all your goals effortlessly and in a record short time. All you need to do is buy the product, play with the suggested methods a bit, and the results are already there. In the past 10 years, I have bought hundreds of such products, but I have not found a single system that would give me the results I wanted overnight and with no effort on my part. I achieve my goals successfully, but there is a lot of effort involved. Of course, that does not mean to say that there aren't some amazing, and very effective, programs and approaches to reality creation out there, but they can only be successful through effort and a great investment of energy. If you are of those who are constantly on the lookout for new systems and programs, believing that one day you will find something to do the job instead of you, and with minimal effort on your part, know that you are wasting your precious time, which is flying past fast enough anyway. Without great commitment on your part, no system will bring you anything new, except for the frustration of not seeing the changes you want. The above is true of all the phases of the forgotten skill, not just the one mentioned in this chapter. Conscious reality creation which is aligned with your deepest desires is not for those with idle attitudes, who want to be served everything on a silver platter as soon as they wish for it, with no effort on their part. Such people will never be able to experience a happy and fulfilled life or be able to create their reality consciously. They will always find a scapegoat, who should presumably feel honored to be responsible for making their accuser's life not the way it was supposed to be. They will always keep looking for new opportunities and new scapegoats. Let's look at conscious reality creation from this perspective. 57. Would you find it exciting to play tennis with an opponent you knew played very badly, knowing that you would win the match effortlessly? Would you find it interesting to go to the gym to lift weights so light that they required no effort to lift? Would you find it interesting to learn a foreign language whose words you knew well? Would you be excited by a computer game in which you already knew the sequence of events, and where the suspense was missing because you were already aware of the ending? I'm sure your answer is no. So don't give up if things aren't going the way you want them to at the very beginning, because they probably won't, and that's perfectly fine, because you are creating a new perspective of looking at the world, and becoming a different person. Limiting approach number 2, jumping to conclusions. There is another phenomenon which tends to come up when using the forgotten skill, and it slows down the entire process of creating your desired experiences. It is jumping to conclusions about the success of the process. For example, you have set a goal and are using the methods from this book to achieve it as successfully as possible. However, after only a few days, you start to compare what has changed in your reality with the way things were before you started working on the goal. After comparing the earlier situation with the current one, you realize that nothing special has happened, and you start to doubt the efficacy of the forgotten skill, as well as your ability to create your desired experiences consciously. Doubt, in and of itself, is not a bad thing, especially while you are still defining your goal. But once you have determined your goal, doubting its realization is not at all productive. In a state of doubt, the focus of your consciousness is divided partly into what you want, and partly into the non-achieving of what you want. At first glance it might seem like a minor detail, but it can greatly hinder your progress towards the desired goal. Doubt is often followed by worry, which is definitely not a desirable factor. Worry is nothing more than using your own thoughts to create something that you do not want, or, as John Assaraf put it, worry is a prayer for what you don't want. 58. To avoid experiencing such a phenomenon, simply don't fall into the trap of jumping to early conclusions about the success of the process. As soon as you feel that your mind is trying to compare an earlier situation with the current one, immediately stop that train of thought and keep on thinking, focusing your consciousness, in a way that will make you feel as if you had already reached your goal. Always keep in mind that the process of reality creation invariably begins in your mind. While you are working on your goal on a mental level, don't expect to see instant results in the physical world, or to get clear ideas on what practical steps to take. It is a process that has its own sequence, and you need to respect that sequence. An indispensable factor of successfully achieving any goal is mental and emotional clarity. Only when you are clear on what you truly wish to feel by attaining such a goal, and when you spend most of your time in the emotional state in which you feel your goal has already been achieved, will you feel the right moment to take action. 6. Once you start taking action to achieve your goal, you will start to notice more and more visible indicators of your progress in the direction of the goal. But until you get to that stage, let the main indicator of your progress towards your goal be the increasing presence of emotions which make you feel as if you have already reached it. In this book I often use the term reality creation, and I intend to keep on using it for simplicity's sake, as well as to make the information flow. However, in essence, you are not creating a new reality that does not already exist. You are simply creating your own new experience of an already existing reality. While researching ancient texts that deal with the topic of reality creation, I came across the analogy of creating a statue several times. The stone which the sculptor decides to use already contains unlimited possibilities of the statue's shape. However, the sculptor's intent and vision determine the final outcome of his artwork, that is, the final shape of the statue. Therefore it is important to understand that the sculptor is not creating something new out of nothing. He has before him the potential, so to speak, of all possible forms, and simply chooses the form he wishes to create, that is experience. Similarly, we already live in a universe which is like a potential that contains all possible realities within it, and our, conscious or unconscious, choice of focusing our consciousness is the key factor that decides which experiences we will have. 7. 6. We will talk more about taking action towards achieving a goal in the part of the book titled Inspired Action. 7. According to quantum theory, it is believed that an event in the subatomic world exists in all possible states until our observation or measurement of it fixes it in a single state, the collapse of the wave. 59. I am aware of the fact that there is an analytical program within us that constantly wishes to compare what we have achieved so far with earlier events, but please consciously delay activating this program until your goal is fully achieved the way you wished it to be. Once you manage to achieve it, running this program will be fun and very productive in terms of boosting your self-confidence. Each newly completed goal strengthens your self-confidence as a conscious creator of your own reality. Another variation on this topic might be predicting the rhythm of fulfilling your goal. However, you cannot accurately predict the rhythm of fulfilling your goal. You might sometimes feel that nothing special is occurring in your life, and then suddenly everything starts moving with lightning speed. In any case, always keep in mind that the rhythm of fulfilling your goal is not your part of the job. Your every attempt at analyzing this rhythm pushes you a step backwards. Setting a goal is like choosing the type of seed you wish to sow. It's a good idea to take enough time to think about the goal. While you are still setting the goal, doubt is a productive thing as it makes you think about various options, as well as the possible consequences of achieving the goal you are thinking about. However, once you have chosen the seed, set a goal, and decided to sow it, it is completely counterproductive to dig up the earth to see what is happening to the seed. Such a plant would probably never sprout. For it to grow as quickly as possible, your job is to choose high-quality seed, that is, to define your goal so that it is clear and desirable, prepare the ground well and water it regularly, in addition to everything else that needs to be done. So once you have chosen the seed, set your goal, you have nothing more to do with it, except to take care of the environment it grows in, using the phases of the forgotten skill. You don't have to know how the seed gets its nutrition in order to grow, nor do you need to know what makes the plant grow. Nature has obviously taken that part of the job into its own hands. You need to do your part of the job, so that by cooperating with nature, you can one day receive all the benefits such a plant can give you. Function, which we talked about at the beginning of this book. After our observation and measurements stop, the subatomic particles go back to their original state. 60. If your thoughts often cause you to feel joyous and playful, that means it's just a matter of time before a plant appears in your life, whose fruits will fill your reality with all those tastes that bring you a joyous and playful experience. Creating a fulfilled life requires no more effort than creating an unfulfilled life. We are always creating something anyway. It is only the habit of your constant thinking which conditions the direction in which you focus your consciousness, since the act of focusing your consciousness is an act of creating your reality. As long as you are awake, your consciousness is focused on something, you are always thinking about something, consciously or unconsciously. You cannot not think while you are awake, because when you are awake, your conscious mind is always active. This cannot be changed, as far as I am aware, but you can influence the direction and manner of your thinking, which is enough for you to be able to create a happy and fulfilled life. Now let's recap what we have learned. As long as you are awake, you are thinking about something, whether you are aware of it or not. When you are thinking, you are creating your reality in accordance with what you are feeling while thinking of something. When you think of something, your consciousness focuses. Focusing your consciousness can be more or less intense, but it is always an act of creation. The emotion you feel while you are thinking about something is an indicator of what will soon show up in your reality if you keep on thinking the same way. You are always free to choose what you will think about, consequently, you have full control over what you will experience. By changing the way you think, you can change your reality. Always keep choosing the thoughts that bring you the greatest joy, over and over. 61. There is no reality except the one contained within us. Hermann Hesse. Limiting approach 3, clinging to the goal. A phenomenon I frequently notice in my experience, as well as in the experiences of my coaching clients, is a frantic clinging to a certain goal. It is a state in which we feel that our life will not be complete if we do not reach the planned goal. We seem to think that, without the goal, everything will lose its meaning. One variation of this phenomenon is a state in which we want to achieve the goal exactly as we imagined it, and no differently. Such an approach contains the danger that even if we achieved exactly what we envisioned, it would not give us the experience we were expecting before we decided to attain the goal. Remember that the emotion which is active within you, the one you are feeling, is the main indicator of the vibration which you are sending out to the universe. Whatever you send into the universe, you get back. If you are desperately clinging to a goal which you wish to attain, thinking that everything else in your life will be meaningless without it, then you should know that together with the vibration of your desire, you are emitting a vibration caused by the fear that your goal might not be achieved. By doing this, you simultaneously emit a vibration which attracts what you want and a vibration which repels what you want. Quite a mess, isn't it? Have clear and specific goals, but don't cling desperately to their fulfillment. Always give the universe enough space to deliver a goal which is in essence much better for you, and which resonates more with what you truly wish to experience. This approach will allow you to receive the precise goal you want, or something even better. Be very 62. Open to receiving that precise goal, but at the same time make room in your mind to receive something even better. Looking at things from your current perspective, it might often appear to you that achieving the goal you want is the only satisfactory option. We often think that we only have access to the things we see and believe to be possible, and we set our goals accordingly. However, our perspective is mostly very narrow. You can know what kind of experience you wish to live by achieving a certain goal, But you can never be sure that it is that precise goal which will allow you to live the experience. The apartment you want to buy may truly be the ideal one with respect to build quality, organization of space, location, terrain, etc. and, at first sight, might seem to fit the emotions you wish to feel. But who can guarantee that new neighbors won't move in, ones so noisy that you will soon feel the urge to move out? We are only aware of a small part of the big picture. Our conscious mind is like the tip of an iceberg floating above the surface of the sea, even though 90% of it is under the sea and not visible from the surface. There are different aspects of our minds, and the conscious aspect is only one of them, and a very small one at that. I do not doubt your intelligence, but on a conscious level, we know very little. Very few of us even use more than 10% of our brain. However smart and intelligent you think you are, you should know that intelligence alone is not enough to be able to predict absolutely everything that could happen on the path to achieving a goal, regardless of the nature of the goal, material, spiritual, etc. This does not mean that we are incapable of doing anything meaningful. That is exactly why we all have an inbuilt inner compass, which we talked about in previous chapters. Our inner compass has access to all the important information, and is always showing us the way which is perfectly aligned with what we truly desire. It's a great pity to waste time and not utilize the potential and the possibilities which our inner compass possesses. It's a shame to be frantically clinging to the planned goal and miss out on the experience you want. 63. Also be aware that a great number of goals that you have set have been created by society. We have all been in situations in the past where older and wiser people imposed their visions of a successful life on us, and in doing so, directed us towards goals which might have been good for them. Yet can anyone truly guarantee that the same goals will function well in your own life, and bring you the experiences that you wish to live? Let's be realistic, no one can guarantee us that. Still, many people fall into this trap, and end up blaming others when their lives don't turn out the way they expected. Always remember that there is an almost infinite range of possibilities within which you can experience precisely what you desire. By clinging to a specific goal, you are only limiting yourself. If you have a true desire for a certain experience, that means that you can achieve it. Don't allow limiting perceptions to direct the tapestry of your life. An acquaintance of mine had a great desire to get a job in a private real estate company. She knew a few of the employees and had heard about their experiences, so she thought that the company would be ideal for her, and everything else would just be a necessary compromise. She was excited at the very thought of working in that firm and wanted nothing else. She even sent the manager an email saying that she was willing to work for 3 months for no salary so that they could test her skills and negotiate a permanent job position if they liked her work. She did not allow her mind to connect her desired experience to a different workplace or option. However, at the same time, she was also very concerned about the possibility of not getting a job there. She would often imagine already being employed at the company and performing everyday tasks. She would imagine traveling with clients and making great deals. She would visualize and feel getting frequent compliments from her manager and her clients. But she still felt a certain amount of worry in case the desire did not materialize, since she thought that her talents and abilities could not come to the fore in any other company in Croatia. She dreaded the very thought of not succeeding. The constant presence of her worry would not allow her to relax completely into a vision of herself working at the company happily and in a relaxed manner. Still, she did not pay much attention to these things, since she believed that the worrying would stop once she had gotten the desired job. 64. Soon, an employee of the company decided to set up his own private business, and a new vacancy appeared. Her acquaintances immediately recommended her to the manager, who decided to hire her right after the first job interview. He was delighted with her enthusiasm and her new ideas about increasing the company's productivity. On one occasion, He admitted that during the interview, he felt that she was better acquainted with the situation of the company than any employee until then. She got her ideal job, and finally relaxed and allowed herself to feel happy. She truly loved doing that job and stayed behind in the office longer than she had to. The other employees would often jokingly complain that because of her, they would one day also be expected to work longer hours. In the meantime, the recession began. The real estate market started diving sharply. Job losses were often spoken about in the media. The real estate market plunge greatly affected her company's business. After a very short time of being happy and relaxed, she once again started to worry about her job. How can I be completely relaxed, let go and enjoy my job, when I could get fired at any moment? What will I do then? She asked me once. First she was worried that she would not get the job, and after getting what she wanted, she felt worried once again because she could lose it easily, so she still did not feel calm and happy. She did achieve the exact goal that she had wanted, but she did not gain the experience she had expected before she started manifesting the goal. I think you get the idea. 65. Part 3 T the he s shocking hocking t truth about test stress. 66. Chapter 8. Stress. A great friend. Have you ever thought about the fact that stress is one of your best friends? What do you mean? You're probably asking yourself. This guy must be nuts. Too bad for him. But before you arrive at a final decision, allow me to acquaint you with the phenomenon we normally call stress. Google's traffic estimator tool shows clearly that an average of 6,120,000 people a month perform searches related to the term stress. 8. Obviously, stress is the in thing these days. But even without Google's tool, I think you will agree with me that this is a word you hear almost every day, especially in business circles. Despite being very in, stress is still seen as a global enemy that we should get rid of as soon as possible, because it is one of the main culprits to blame for our numerous failures. The problem is, stress was designed to be a tool of the forgotten skill, and it is an indispensable tool for us to be able to consciously create the reality of our choice. By this I don't mean to say that you should strive to live a stressful life, but I do want to emphasize the following. If you wish to master the forgotten skill, you should set aside, at least for a time, all the concepts you have heard about stress so far, look at it from a different viewpoint, and relate to it accordingly. There is a great number of people who keep on repeating that they have stress-related problems, not understanding that stress simply indicates a state in which we feel unwanted emotions. We have already spoken about unwanted emotions and understood the purpose of their existence. We have understood that every unwanted emotion is, in fact, very positive because it tells us clearly that we are not creating reality the way we truly want to. It tells us that we are thinking incorrectly. We understood that a sign saying, "Stop, precipice ahead," despite being possibly 8 search results for 2010. 67. Stressful for us, is not an enemy that we need to get rid of, because it is warning us that, if we continue driving, we will end up in a chasm. You should know that stress is nothing more than a combination of several unwanted emotions which you feel in your body and which constantly warn you that your way of thinking at a certain moment, and the thoughts you are using, are not attracting the necessary ingredients with which to create your desired reality and, consequently, live your desired experiences. Stress is not your enemy, never try to get rid of it. Stress is a wise counselor that cries aloud for your own good, even if you are not happy to hear it. Stress is your friend, so treat it like one. Never try to get rid of a perfect mechanism which nature has created to help us bring into existence a desired reality. That would be like trying to remove the receptors in your cells which clearly signal that you are sitting on a frozen surface. So the next time you feel that you are under stress, don't immediately try to get rid of it, because you will never get rid of stress, but stop for a moment and think about what your wise counselor is trying to tell you. He never appears uselessly, but only when he has good reason to. Stop fighting with him. Remember that the universe does not react to the situation, or circumstances, you find yourself in, but to the thoughts you are thinking while you are in the situation. Or, stated differently, stress is not an effect of something happening in your life, but an effect of what you think is happening. That is why different people have different emotional reactions to the same situation. Remind yourself that the emotions you feel are a universal language of communication with the universe, and that the universe uses emotions to let you know what kind of vibration you are sending it at any given moment. What you send out, you will get back. The reality you are experiencing is just feedback about the sum total of all the vibrations you have sent out into the universe. Therefore, stress is nothing more than extremely valuable feedback which contains a message that at the moment you feel stressed, there are thoughts in your mind that are not aligned with the experience you wish to create in your life. Instead of fighting. 68. Against stress, listen to the message it sends you, and change your manner and direction of thinking. By changing your thinking, your experience will change. You can always choose to think differently regardless of the situation you find yourself in. Perhaps it has not been your habit so far, but be aware that there is a different approach. If you would like to master the forgotten skill, this approach to stress is not only desirable, but vital. It certainly won't be simple nor easy for you in the beginning, but does that matter anyway? We are talking about your life and your experience, and they are the two most valuable things you have. The truly important thing is to answer the question, what kind of vibration am I spending most of my time in? Does that vibration create joy for you, or something very different? If it does not create joy, then be aware that you are thinking incorrectly because joy is your very nature. Joy is not just an emotion, joy is our true nature. Joy is not a fiction meant just for small kids or Buddhist monks. It is a necessity, since life without joy is no life at all. Living is not the same as existing. Anyone can exist. But joy is reserved for those who are brave and courageous enough to walk the path of becoming aware of themselves and the universe they live in, as well as their reason for coming to this planet. Joy is not just a flowery word or a philosophical or metaphysical concept, but a fundamental state of existence. The question is, how aware are we of this fact, and how much of that joy are we letting flow through our lives? Looking forward to important meetings. Let's apply this theory to a practical example, with additional comments. We will go through a more demanding, stressful situation, so you can understand the essence better. Let's say that you are going to have a day full of stressful meetings ahead of you. Since these meetings are very important to your business, you do not wish to postpone them, nor send anyone else to the meeting instead of you. However, the mere thought of some of these meetings automatically gives you stomach cramps. This is stress. Even though your common sense tells you that it is quite logical and justifiable to be stressed out in these circumstances, as a serious student of the forgotten skill, you will not react in the usual manner, or look for tranquilizer pills, but you will stop for a moment and think carefully and feel what kind of vibration you are emitting at that moment, becoming aware of emotions. 69. Having done that, you will ask yourself if the emotions you are feeling are in alignment with the reality you wish to experience. Note, this is the phase of the skill where you develop emotional awareness using the questions, what emotions am I feeling now? And, are these emotions showing me that I am creating my reality in a desirable or undesirable direction? When you have concluded that those emotions are definitely not aligned with what you want to be part of your life experience, you will consciously find other thoughts which might have no connection to the situation you are in, but which still resonate more with what you want. Here, you are becoming aware that thinking about something causes you to focus your consciousness, and that focusing your consciousness creates your reality. You decide, for example, to think about an excellent, very educational film that you watched the night before. You remember a few good scenes and once again feel that feeling of comfort you felt when you were watching them. The fact that those scenes are not related to the meeting you are going to have that day is not important. The important thing is that you know that you are doing this solely to change the vibration you are emitting. You know that by choosing those thoughts you are not running away from the unwanted. You are doing this because you are acquainted with the forgotten skill of conscious reality creation, and you know that you are more productive and creative at daily meetings because of it. You are aware that, as soon as you change your focus and maintain it for just a few seconds, your mind will start to receive new thoughts that resonate with what you are focusing on. So the more you think about something, the more similar thoughts will come into your mind. Due to the change in focus, your way of thinking and the thoughts you are using, in just a few moments you will start to feel your emotions change, and from this state you focus on something that awakens even more desirable emotions. Keep repeating this exercise until you reach the emotional state that is aligned with what you wish to experience. Let's go on. You arrive at the meeting in a good mood, which you have achieved by changing your focus, but at the very start you find that things are not going the way you had imagined. You are offered terms that do not suit you, and once again you start feeling that same knot in your stomach that you felt before leaving home. You are aware that the vibration you are emitting at that moment only serves to attract more unwanted stuff into your life, draining you of all important energy and creativity. Instead of giving yourself up to that vibration and continuing the negotiations influenced by undesirable emotions, you begin the same process again. For a moment, focus your attention on anything that would cause you to feel desirable emotions. Think about a positive aspect of the meeting, or about anything else, absolutely anything. Despite the situation which you are in right now, you are aware that you can choose to think different thoughts compared to those showing up as a reaction to the current 70 situation. You know that the universe reacts to your thoughts, not to the situation at hand. As a serious student of the forgotten skill, it is clear to you that it is not wise to simply react to the current situation. You also need to find an adequate vibrational response to offer in this moment. You also know that it is important to be proactive, and not just react to what is happening. If you are only reacting to the situation at hand, you are mentally grabbing onto the vibration of that situation, and you do not want that. You are not interested in a reaction, you need a freshly created answer to the situation, in order to maintain the desired vibration. Yet the powerful stomach cramps prevent you from thinking and feeling the emotion which would change your vibration for the better. At that moment, remember that you are an energy being living in a universe of energy, and that everything around you is, in essence, just energy vibrating at different frequencies. You are also aware that thought is energy and that every thought vibrates at a different frequency. You have understood that due to the large jump from the vibration which you are currently in to the vibration you wish to experience, you are not mentally and emotionally able to hook onto a thought whose vibration is very high. But you can still choose a thought that is vibrationally closer, making it more reachable, which will gradually pull you out of your current vibration. This is the method of stepping stone thinking, which we will discuss later. You know that only a few seconds of focusing on such a thought are needed in order to change your vibration. You also know that, once you change your vibration, it will be easier to focus on, and feel, thoughts that are vibrationally closer to your desired experience. Although this was just an example of a possible situation, the same principle holds true in general. In essence, it is always about consciously reaching the desired vibration and feeling the desired emotions using your mind as a means of changing your vibration. The above example probably sounds good to you, but you might be concerned about its practical usage. I agree with you completely, but at the same time you should know that with regular practice, the application of any skill becomes easier and easier. You know how many times a child needs to fall before she learns to walk. Think back to how long you needed to learn to talk, Yet now you can talk effortlessly. Remember how much effort was needed so you could learn to read, and now you are reading this book with effortless ease. Remember the neural nets and the way they are connected, which we talked about in Chapter 1, and don't worry or lose motivation if your speed of mastering the forgotten skill seems too slow. Take all the time you need and be persistent. Nothing happens overnight, and that includes mastering the forgotten skill. 71. In order for you to understand stress more clearly and deal with it more easily, let's examine the above example a bit more. Stepping stone thinking. You might have noticed in the previous example that I introduced a way of thinking I like to call stepping stone thinking. Stepping stone thinking assumes that every thought is energy vibrating at a certain frequency. If you are under the influence of thoughts vibrating at, say, frequency number 3, and you want to feel the emotions that get activated when you think thoughts vibrating at frequency number 13, you will find it difficult to just quickly switch to frequency 13. Due to the great vibrational difference, you will most probably feel a strong resistance and find it impossible to align yourself with thoughts resonating with frequency number 13. Yet there is another way to get to the desired frequency, and that is the method of stepping stone thinking. This is how it works. You attempt to mentally grab onto any other thought which you can align with vibrationally, if it vibrates at a slightly higher frequency than the current one. It is not at all important if the new thought is in any way connected with what you desire. What is important is that you feel that the thought elevates you vibrationally by a step, whatever it be like. When you feel that you have climbed that step, repeat the same procedure by choosing thoughts that will elevate your frequency a little more. Keep repeating the process until you get to the desired frequency. Getting back to the example which talks about your participation at a certain meeting, you will, naturally, react to the stressful situation, and in so doing get entangled in the dominant vibration of the meeting. If you start thinking about how your interlocutors are comfortable to be around and easy to talk to, such thinking will be unable to activate the desired emotions in you due to the large gap in frequencies between the current situation and the desired one. Precisely because of that, in the aforementioned example, you opt for the method of stepping stone thinking. You might, for example, think about a pleasant scene from a movie you watched the night before, so that you can, 1. Mentally distance yourself from the effects of the vibrations now present at the meeting, and 2. Be a step closer to your desired emotional state. When you feel that you have distanced yourself vibrationally from the current situation, and lifted yourself one step upwards vibrationally, you start over, mentally, hooking onto another thought that is vibrationally available to you and which lifts you another vibrational step upwards. 72. For example, you might focus on the thought that the experience of the meeting is helping you to better get to know the type of people you are dealing with, and that next time, you will realize more clearly what kind of people you are dealing with. This, in turn, will enable you to prepare a better negotiation strategy for the next meeting. Stepping stone thinking, and inner dialogues. I often hear my coaching clients say that their stepping stone thinking comes to an impasse when they are in extremely stressful situations, such as the one mentioned in our example, and that in such moments they do not feel motivated to change their vibration, even gradually. I find this phenomenon completely understandable, especially with people who have just started using the forgotten skill. However, stepping stone thinking is not a method meant primarily for situations when we feel intense unwanted emotions, but a method preferably applied in almost all cases when we are feeling emotions that are not in accordance with our desired experiences. Remember the chapter where we spoke of inner dialogues and the importance of aligning them with what we want. It is precisely in such situations that stepping stone thinking has maximum power, for 2 reasons. The first is the fact that it is much easier to implement stepping stone thinking as soon as we feel that our inner dialogue is moving in an unwanted direction. The unwanted emotions are not as pronounced at that moment as they are at an important meeting, and we can change a dialogue that has begun like that into a favorable one very quickly. In such situations, the vibrational gap between the active unwanted emotions and the emotions you wish to feel is much smaller, and it requires far less effort for you to reach your desired vibration using stepping stone thinking. The second reason is the following: the more we control our inner dialogue using the stepping stone thinking method, the more aligned our dominant vibration will be with our desired life experiences, gradually reducing the number of situations in which we feel the powerful influence of negative emotions. Know that the state in which we feel an intense influence of negative emotions, or what is commonly known as being very stressed out, is rarely a reaction to a single situation. Beneath these states there is often a series of inner dialogues which were not heading in a desirable direction for us, and the situation we think is the cause of our condition of great stress is just the proverbial straw that broke the camel's back. In everyday life, due to the many responsibilities and thoughts spinning inside your head, it is not always easy to allocate some time to mentally and emotionally align 73. Yourself with the desired reality. The method of stepping stone thinking allows you to do so as you go about your day, with little effort involved. With just a little extra effort, using this method, you can align yourself with any frequency. Although at first sight, the stepping stone method might appear simple, trite and going against common sense, it is still a very powerful and effective method, especially when you gain more experience by using it. The difference between vibrational response and reaction. I am going to use an example of a person, yourself, at an important business meeting, to illustrate yet another phenomenon. Instead of reacting to the vibration that has been imposing itself upon you, you have understood that you would gain nothing by doing this except keeping yourself under the influence of undesirable emotions. You have recognized the dominant emotion at the meeting and you realize that your wise counselor, stress in the form of negative emotions, is clearly warning you that you are emitting a vibration that is not aligned with the experience that you desire. So you have decided that, instead of a reaction, you will offer your vibrational response using the method of stepping stone thinking. The main difference between a vibrational response and a reaction is that a person who chooses a vibrational response is aware that the universe does not react to the situation we are in, but to the thoughts we are thinking while we are in the situation itself. Such a person is aware that she is the creator of her own reality, that reality creation begins with thoughts, and that the universe always and exclusively reacts to her thoughts about something, not to what is happening around her. Those who believe that they cannot influence their own reality simply react to the current situation and by doing so keep recreating their experiences. They allow others to decide about their fate, and blame others for their own failures. A conscious creator never reacts to the current circumstances, but always keeps on offering a fresh new vibrational response. He is aware that the way he directs his attention focuses his consciousness, and that focusing consciousness creates reality. He knows what he wants to experience, and does not allow others to distract him from that. This awareness allows him to distance himself from the influences of the existing situation and lets him choose his own vibrational response to the situation. This kind 74. Of awareness gives him true freedom of choice because he knows that his experience of reality depends solely on himself. He knows that those without this awareness are victims of circumstances, since, due to their lack of this awareness, they are forced to react to what is around them, whether they like it or not. The rationalization method. To make the stepping stone method more effective, and the vibrational response even better, I suggest an auxiliary approach that I will call the rationalization method. The rationalization method is based on unbiased logical analysis of the current situation, to create the required distance from the influences of an unwanted vibration. The primary aim of the aforementioned method is to determine the current situation in an unbiased manner, and then let go of all the useless aspects of the situation. Let's go through an example of the rationalization method together. You only have 5 days to complete and submit a very important project, but it feels like you need at least twice the time. You feel panic, anxiety, helplessness and anger. You blame yourself for not starting work on the project on time, and you find it difficult to motivate yourself enough to even work properly for those remaining 5 days. You are aware that you are reacting to an unwanted situation, and that this only causes you to attract more of what you do not want, but you simply can't help it, and you can't find an appropriate vibrational response. You try to implement the method of stepping stone thinking, wanting to think about something which will increase your vibration by a step or more, but you just aren't able to do it. The influence of the currently active vibration within you, and the force of the unwanted emotions you are feeling, are so powerful that it feels like nothing can change your vibration. You wish you could escape from your situation, but you don't know how. At that moment, you decide to use the rationalization method. Don't try to approach the situation in either a positive or negative way. You want to examine the situation and your options rationally and in a completely unbiased fashion. Let's say you start with these questions and answers. Question: can I change the date by which I must complete and submit the project? Your unbiased answer: 75. No, because the deadline is fixed. This is a rare opportunity, and it would be a pity to not even give it a try. Even if I give up, I know that I won't be able to relax during these 3 days, and I'll just keep blaming myself for not starting the project earlier. Question: is there any point in asking someone to help me finish the project on time? Your unbiased answer: no, because this is something that only I can do. Even if I tried to hire someone to help me, I'd need more than 3 days just to explain the project to him. So that's not an option. Question: does it make sense to simply give up on this project and look for another opportunity? Your unbiased answer: I could give up, but that would be crazy. This project is extremely important for my career. There are other options, but it would make no sense for me to look for them now. Question: are the worry, anxiety, helplessness and anger that I'm feeling right now helping me complete the project? Your unbiased answer: absolutely not. They are just draining my energy and decreasing my motivation and concentration, both of which I need to start working efficiently. Question: is there any way for me to use the unwanted emotions I'm feeling right now to complete the project faster? Your unbiased answer: these emotions definitely aren't helping me, they're only hindering me. Question: then what can I do to use the remaining time I have until the deadline to maximum effect? 76. Your unbiased answer: well, I've already concluded that anxiety and similar states aren't helping me at all. If these states helped me finish the project on time, I'd be happy to become the most anxious and worried person on earth, and would even hire a life coach to help me with it. Since these states are hindering me, I should avoid them, because I'm uselessly wasting the little time I have, and draining my energy for nothing. Question: what, then, could I do to put the following 5 days to best use? Your unbiased answer: now it's completely clear to me that by being nervous and panicking I'm just wasting my time and energy. I don't want to abandon the project, and I can't call someone to help me, so I have no option but to grab a coffee, get to work and give it all I've got. I've got nothing to lose, and I'll gain a lot if I finish the project and if it gets accepted. Instead of the panic and nervousness, I'll focus my attention on finishing the project successfully. I'll plan how to use every available minute to the max. I'll work on my project quickly and thoughtfully, but I won't panic because I know that I won't gain anything by doing that. In fact, it makes me lose time and energy. Okay, so I've made my decision. I'll keep going for what I want. And so on, until you feel that the influence of the unwanted emotions has waned, and that you can start using the method of stepping stone thinking and bringing yourself into the desired vibrational state. The basis of the rationalization method is simple. It is a rational analysis of the entire situation and a search for unbiased arguments for and against. When unwanted emotions influence us powerfully, it's difficult to mentally latch onto a thought that vibrates a step higher, stepping stone thinking, but the rational part of your mind goes on using the same old logic. Despite the powerful influence of the unwanted emotions, your rational mind will not give you an affirmative answer to the question, will such emotions be useful for me to achieve my desired goal? This kind of rational analysis will help you put a helpless situation into perspective, and you will create the necessary distance from the unwanted emotions. This is because you are putting yourself in the position of a judge who needs to assess a situation objectively, and delay the verdict. Distance yourself until the facts have been fully established. Use the rationalization method until you feel that you have moved away enough from the unwanted state, and are able to offer your vibrational response from your new state. 77. Part 4. Inspired action. 78. Chapter 9. The difference between forced and inspired action. There is nothing more powerful than an idea whose time has come. Victor Hugo. We have concluded so far that the reality we live in is a reflection of the virtual reality which we have previously created in our minds. We have found that our choice of thoughts and how we think most influence the experiences we will have. At the same time, this does not mean that it is enough to simply think correctly and believe that everything will fall into place of its own accord. Conscious reality creation, or rather, conscious creation of desired experiences is a process which does not consist only of thinking. It is also vital to do something to achieve this. However, the way, that, when and how, we do something, is a key factor which determines the outcome of our project. In this chapter, I would like to introduce you to the activity which we will call inspired action. There are two kinds of action. Although they appear similar on the surface, there is actually a big difference between them. I will call one of these two kinds of action, forced action. Whether it is something we are forcing ourselves to do, or are being forced to do by an authority figure, such as the manager, the main characteristic of this type of action is that it is performed as a must. I must do such and such, although I don't feel like it, is the main trait of forced action. It is something we would rather avoid doing, if we weren't faced with the undesirable consequences of not doing the action. If we do not carry out whatever we think we should, unwanted consequences will follow. Unlike forced action, inspired action means doing something caused by a previous feeling of inspiration. It is as though a clear impulse to act has been sent forth from deep within us. We do not carry out such an action because we want to avoid the 79 consequences of not carrying it out, but because we want to do it, and we joyously take part in the process of creating our own reality. We have all had experiences in life that have been guided by the spirit of inspiration. Remember your childhood days. Taking part in various games and activities, with no one making us. We didn't need to, nor have to, we just wanted to. Sometimes this would last for hours, and we would be so wrapped up in a game or other similar activity that we would forget about time, we would even forget to eat and drink during the time. It was as if everything had stopped, only the game existed, and our actions were spontaneous and effortless. In order to integrate inspired action, a phase of the forgotten skill, into our lives as much as possible, we first have to understand its purpose. A person who is driven by the spirit of forced action thinks that he creates his own reality exclusively through single activities, regardless of the type of work involved: physical, intellectual, etc. Such a person sees himself as a physical being living in a physical universe, and within this concept of reality, the only way to achieve results is through concrete action. He places almost no importance on his attitude and on the emotions he feels while performing various activities. According to his understanding, the only guarantee of success is hard work and intense effort. A person guided by inspiration, on the other hand, understands that the process of reality creation starts inside his mind. He understands that his current life situation is just a reflection of his state of mind. He understands that every manifestation on the physical level is preceded by a manifestation on the mental level. In other words, every manifestation on a physical level is preceded by that same virtual reality created in his mind. For this very reason, such a person will begin to act only when he attains the required level of mental clarity and emotional alignment with the desired goal. He sees clearly that he does not create his reality solely through his actions, but primarily through the way he thinks and the thoughts he uses. The way he acts, namely, inspired action, is the means by which the dominant thought is transferred to the physical level. It is, therefore, an act of transferring the creation which has already been produced on the mental level, to a level we call the physical. Inspired action, unlike must/should action, is always easy and comfortable, although this does not imply an objectively easy level of commitment, effort. We are talking about the feeling of ease and fulfillment we feel while doing something in a state of inspired action. 80. Inspired action in daily practice. Now that we have defined the difference between forced and inspired action generally at least, let's discover some ways of putting inspired action into practice. First of all, it is important to understand that inspired action is part of other phases of the forgotten skill. For example, let's say you have decided to achieve a goal, and are sticking to the advice in this book. You have worked on your attitudes, inner dialogues, and becoming aware of your emotions regarding your goal. You are doing the emotion factory process every day, and you have achieved a decent level of emotional clarity about what you wish to experience by reaching your goal. As a student of the forgotten skill, you understand that there is no need to rush any activity until you feel the impulse, inspiration, to do something. You are aware that you have an inner compass, and, as soon as you achieve mental clarity of your goal and emotional alignment with it to such an extent that you already feel that the goal has been reached, your inner compass starts sending you signals, inspiring you, about the right place and the right time for adequate action. There is no need to burden yourself with various activities simply so you can begin doing something to attain your goal, because you understand that the most important part of achieving any goal happens inside your mind. You understand that any commitment to reach a goal without prior emotional alignment with the essential experience of such a goal is no more than a waste of time and energy. You know that your dominant thoughts create molds through which the creative energy of the universe flows, and that if these molds are not previously adjusted to the right form, each additional commitment brings you only unwanted experiences. However, after aligning yourself emotionally with the desired goal and the experience you wish to feel by attaining the goal, as soon as you feel the time is right to act, you allow inspiration to guide you and do whatever you feel the inner impulse to do. You know that your inspired action is just a vehicle driven by an intelligence that surpasses the understanding of your logic and the conscious part of your mind. Even though they might appear similar, inspired action is not the same as passivity. Inspired action is just a different approach to taking action compared to forced action. It is not about being lazy or dallying around, but a conscious cooperation with the universe. Inspired action is not a way to avoid active participation in the process of goal creation, but a planned strategy of reality creation which takes into account the wisdom and intelligence of the universe we live in. You can be certain that while in a state of inspired action, your productivity, creativity and focus will be on a much higher level as opposed to working in a state of forced action. You will also need much less time to get the results you want. 81. In everyday life, I often see a great number of people who equate being busy with being productive. Yet these two terms are not the same. You could be busy all day, and still be very unproductive when it comes to getting closer to your goals. If being busy and putting in effort were the only conditions required to achieve goals, most people would have a huge number of fulfilled goals behind them, since almost nobody has time for anything other than being busy due to their many obligations. Recently I read an article on the internet written by a successful American entrepreneur who emphasized that he did not have too much time to work, because he couldn't make money at the same time. Quite a shocking statement, isn't it? Being a person who had achieved great financial success, he was obviously aware that the secret to making a fortune was not painstaking work, but, as he puts it, wise decisions that follow a smart way of thinking. Although the example cited is about financial success, the principle remains the same regardless of the goal itself. The legendary book, Think and Grow Rich, written by Napoleon Hill in 1937, was the result of 20 years of research and a lot of socializing with more than 500 people who had achieved an enviable level of financial abundance, starting from scratch. The main result of the research is in the title itself, Think and Grow Rich, italics by the author. Here are a few basic guidelines from that famous book. Thought comes first, then organization of the thought, then ideas and plans. Only after that comes the transformation of those plans into reality. The beginning is, as you can see, in your imagination. You have total control over only one thing, your thoughts. This is the most important and inspiring fact known to man. It reflects man's divine nature. This divine right is the only way you can control your own destiny. If you fail to control your own mind, you can be sure that you will not control anything else either. 82. Maintain a certain image of yourself in your mind, long and steadfastly enough, and you will be drawn to it. More gold has been dug up from the mines of human thoughts, than from the bowels of the earth. Self-discipline begins with mastery of your own thoughts. If you do not control what you think about, you cannot control what you do. Simply, self-discipline allows you to think first, then act. Appreciate your dreams and plans, they are the children of your soul, the blueprints of your final achievements. Fears are nothing more than a state of mind. Action is the true measure of intelligence. I strongly recommend you read this book because it makes evident the fact that the leading American businessman of the day understood the importance of conscious creation, which begins in the mind. Action only follows after, and in alignment with, that mental construct. I understand that not everyone has a goal of becoming a successful entrepreneur, or making a financial fortune, but the basic principles of successfully reaching goals are the same. I would like to emphasize once again, that by successfully reaching goals, I do not mean just the attainment of our desired goals, but also the feeling that we would like to feel when we reach the goal. The basic experience we expected to feel when we decided to go for the goal. The essential idea behind every successfully attained goal is the creation of a vision of the goal, already reached, in your mind, and your emotional alignment with such a goal, in such a way that you feel as much as possible that the goal has been reached. This is followed by acting when you feel the time is right to transfer the virtual goal to the physical level, inspired action. Inspired action is not just one of the phases of the forgotten skill, but also a philosophy of life. Such an approach to life contains within itself the awareness of 83. How important every moment is. It contains within itself a trust of the universe in which we live. It contains the consciousness of the ongoing mutual connection between man and the universe, as well as an awareness of the importance of their cooperation. An approach to life based on inspired action also contains within it the awareness that our true nature is joy, and that we are, in essence, spiritual beings that have come here to experience certain things in the physical world. It contains an awareness of the energetic structure of the universe and of the vibrational play of energies that create varied visible manifestations, one of which we call the physical. Promptness and inspired action. Let's get back to the practical application of inspired action. An important factor in the effective application of inspired action is acting promptly. Inspired action does not tolerate procrastination. If we feel the inspiration to begin an action, it means that there is an important reason why we feel it at that precise moment. The reason for acting at that moment may be understandable and logical to us, and it may not. But that is not important. What is important is to react immediately, and to act according to our inspiration. If, for whatever reason, you do not follow your inspiration, later might not be the right time for it. Always keep in mind that your inner compass is aware of the bigger picture of your life and overall situation within your sphere of activity. If you feel inspired to do something at a certain time, do it. It is definitely important. It means that you are at the right place at the right time. Allow your inspiration to guide you. Sometimes the impulse, inspiration, will only appear from time to time, and at other times it will last for days, maybe months, depending on the nature of the goal. There is one more important factor when it comes to promptness and inspired action. Aside from the importance of reacting quickly and acting in the direction shown to us by our inspiration, it is extremely important to do what we need to do in the best possible way, even the most trivial things. 84. Here are a few more thoughts about correct action, written back in 1910 by Wallace D. Wattles. 9. The number of actions you take is not important. The effectiveness of each particular action is. Every action in itself is either a success or a failure. Every action in itself is either efficient or inefficient. Every inefficient action is a failure, and if you spend your life performing inefficient actions, your entire life will be a failure. The more actions you take, the worse it will be for you, if your actions are inefficient. On the other hand, every efficient action is a success in and of itself, so if your every action is efficient, your whole life must be a success. The gradual application of inspired action. We have already mentioned that inspired action is a necessary phase of the forgotten skill. However, when you start applying this phase in practice, do not try to align every single one of your actions with the spirit of inspired action. Although it sounds simple on a theoretical level, it is in fact a very complex phase of the forgotten skill that is difficult to integrate into your life overnight. Successful application of inspired action requires a great dose of your own personal insight, which you cannot gain without experimenting in your own life experience. By gradually changing the dominant vibration you are radiating, through the regular practice of the other phases of the forgotten skill 10, more and more possibilities for using inspired action will appear. You will start feeling the impulses, inspiration, to carry out certain actions and will feel great joy and fulfillment as you carry them out. The more you apply inspired action, the clearer its use will become, and you will find it easier and easier to include it in your life. 9 quotes from the book, The Science of Getting Rich, Wallace D. Wattles. 10 together with regular meditation, which I would strongly recommend. 85. A final message. Wherever you go, go with all your heart. Confucius. Most of our patterns of thinking were created in our childhood. The way we do anything is conditioned primarily by the way we think. However, the society we live in has evidently still not reached a level of evolution where it would guide us towards a lifestyle that would make us happiest from an early age, and which would enable us to fully express the talent and uniqueness woven into our essence. From our school days, society imposes certain standards on us that we should strive for in order to attain the status of a successful citizen. We try to fulfill these standards as best we can for many years, with most of us never asking ourselves about how meaningful they are and if there is another alternative. We believe that one day our hard work will pay off and that happiness will finally come knocking at our door. It is as if society has created a conspiracy, eliminating any possibility of a person expressing his or her individuality. It is no wonder, then, that most people give up creating the reality they feel is truly theirs deep inside, at a very early stage in life. These are times of advanced technology and excellent education, and common sense would have it that there is no reason why our lives should not be filled with joy and enthusiasm. However, most people still feel that life is happening somewhere else, and not in their own experience, regardless of their job and level of education. Many have already stopped expecting anything special, have come to terms with a mediocre life and believe that true love and happiness exist only on the movie screen. Still, as long as we are alive, we have the option of creating real changes in our lives and beginning to create our realities in the desired direction. We do not have to wait for others to start moving, because everything we need to begin creating our reality consciously already exists and is at our disposal. 86. If you analyze all the great minds that have walked this planet, you will see many differences in their teachings, which is natural, since every one of them, like every one of us, has their own viewpoints on life. But they all agree on one thing. We create our reality with our thoughts. The basic premise of this book is exactly that. I have added a few personal insights to it, as well as teachings I have learned by researching other literature. Be persistent and practice the forgotten skill as much as is needed. Without regular practice and persistence, don't expect to see the results you want. Do not avoid the commitment required to apply the forgotten skills, or look for shortcuts. Life on Earth has not been created so that you could take the shortcuts and avoid certain experiences, but to be lived fully, applying ourselves completely in order to create whatever we truly desire. Instead of taking a shortcut, reassess some of your goals. If some of them do not motivate you enough for you to be ready to do anything to achieve them, then they are probably not your true goals. It is very probable that they are other people's goals, or goals which you have set while looking at the world through paradigms that are not in harmony with the reason you came to this planet. When it comes to your true desires, you will never look for shortcuts, but will want to be involved in the creation of your desires as much as possible, with all your heart. You will feel a sense of exhilaration and excitement at the very thought of such goals. You will want to do absolutely everything necessary for the vision of your goals to see the light of reality. I hope you will use this information to the fullest, and keep upgrading it with insights gleaned from your own personal experience. 87. Appendix Supplement to Chapter 1. I would like to introduce two simple tools which could speed up the process of becoming aware of yourself as an energy being living in an energy universe. Chapter 1. A game without limits. Take a few minutes every day to try and imagine what you would feel like if you were fully conscious of the fact that you are an energy being living in a universe of energy. What would that look like? Imagine how you would feel if the physical limitations which normally represent numerous barriers did not exist, and all this was just a game of frequencies which you could influence in any way you wanted. Imagine how you would feel if time and space played no part in creating your desired reality. Feel the emotions that would be dominant in your everyday life, the sense of ease, freedom, joy, a greater ability to express yourself, etc. Play with that. Practice every day. Don't worry about it, having nothing to do with common sense. This is just a game. The main purpose of a game without limits is to make your conscious mind and brain more flexible, so that the knowledge you receive internally can be integrated more efficiently at the conscious level. It is about creating new neural settings in your brain and creating new thought patterns in your mind, to enable you to create a new perception of yourself and the universe you live in. The more you work with the above idea, the more logical and easier to understand it will become. Over time, the neural nets in your brain will begin to adapt to this concept and it will become an almost natural way of thinking for you. Your visionary capacity and your understanding of what is possible and feasible will expand more and more. Where you used to see walls, you will start to see doors. Where you used to see limitations, you will start to notice the horizon. 88. Meditation. Another important and efficient, and in my opinion, the most significant, method of becoming aware of oneself as an energy being living in a universe of energy is regular meditation. Meditation, among other things, allows you to become aware of yourself and your true nature, as well as the nature of the universe we live in. I strongly suggest that you take some time every day to learn more about meditation and to choose the method that suits you best. I do not wish to write about meditation and methods of meditation in this book. I have already covered this topic in my book, Ancient Keys of Joy, Discover the Ancient Secrets of Authentic Happiness, in which you can find more than enough information about the topic, if you wish to learn how to meditate. If you would prefer to learn meditation at a group or individual course, you can sign up for a meditation course, which I hold regularly. For more information about this, as well as other options and products I offer, visit my website www.tomic.com. About the author. From his high school days, Tomislav began to show a great interest in the major religions of the world, as well as various schools of philosophy. At the age of 18, he started to practice meditation, yoga and similar methods, which help to expand consciousness. He has researched these topics in depth and has been taught by experienced teachers. He lives on the island of Hvar in Croatia. For more information about Tomislav, his books and coaching programs visit http://tomic.com.